Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I'm going to just call it the movie cast, where we're going to talk to you about Spider-Man, full spoilers. So we're going to talk about everything, every character, every cameo, every appearance, and this is going to be great. We have a nice panel here with different opinions. So let me just walk down here and explain who is who. First, we have joining us is Mr. Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone? How you doing?
We have Mr. Tony Palanco.
What's going on, people?
Carlos Romero.
Yo, yo, yo. What up, what up, what up?
Mr. Emilio Lopez.
Sup, people? How's it going?
Wonderful. So, we've all seen Spider People. We all have different opinions about it. Let's just go down and tell us what you like, what you didn't like really quickly. So, Emilio, what's your opinion?
Overall, I think was the Spider-Man No Way Home is the better of the Spider-Man films. But I found it the most enjoyable of these new recent Spider-Man films. But the biggest issue I have with the film is the fact that it's so dependent on everybody else, everything else. It's dependent on the MCU. It's dependent on on the new characters that show up in this movie. He doesn't have that much that belongs to him, and that has always been my issue with the home movies. He's always been the dependent Spider-Man, but the movie leaves off in a specific way that gives me hope for the next batch of movies if they do them.
Okay, Mr. Carlos.
So, the movie came out, I mean, a couple of days ago for a lot of people that I know that saw it, and the overall sentiment has been extremely positive. There were a few that weren't as positive about it. That was like, okay, I'm glad that it's bringing down my expectations a little bit, so I don't go see it thinking that it's going to be the best movie ever made. And with that, I do think that this was a really good movie for me. I think this was really tastefully done. It respects sort of the lore and everything that came before the Spider-Man, and it's exactly what it made what Spider-Man is today. And I think I agree with Manny's sort of reasoning about being dependent on other things, and I do agree with that. I do think it was well made. I'll get to more specifics about things that specifically I did not like. But overall, I felt like this was a really great movie. The action was on point. Tom Holland acted the shit out of this movie. Yeah, overall, it was a very enjoyable ride. And, some emotional parts too. I didn't cry, but, I was like, oh, oof, oof. I felt something. Overall thoughts, really, really positive about this movie. I'm pleasantly surprised. This is the best Phase 4 movie so far. This is the best Tom Holland movie so far in terms of just the individual Spider-Mans. And yeah, that's just my general thoughts.
Okay, Mr. Grumpy Pants Blanco.
Right. By the way, real quick, this show could be called like Dana and the Throwdown. Like that's yeah. Real quick thoughts. So yeah, just from the jump, right? I'm talking about when you first saw the first trailer where they were like, hey Doc, the universe is messed up. Can you fix it for me? Sure, kid, I like you. Oh, don't distract me. I'm like, they're really gonna go with this? And Dana, you lied to me. You lied to me. I asked you, please tell me that this is not the way it goes on. You said, no, it's different in the movie. It's the same fucking thing.
It's not. It's not. No, it's actually not.
No, it's
completely
100%
not
the same. It's literally, hey, Dr. Strange, can you change the universe for me? Sure, kid, let's go.
No, there's not because he doesn't say sure, kid. There's a reason. He has a weight, and he feels that he is responsible for Peter because of Tony's death. And he said,
so he's willing to risk the end. By the way, we could get into that. Let me just
we will get into that, but I'm just saying, do not slander my name because I was right.
Yeah, no, you were wrong. Anyway, so going into this, so I'm like, okay, this is already going to be silly. I hope it's not as bad, and it was. It was just as terrible. I'm like, it's insulting. I'm like, you really expect us just to buy this or just go along with this? So the entire movie no, even though there were some emotional stuff that was supposed to get you, I still had like, oh yeah, but the whole premise is just ruined because of the stupid intro, you know. And then like, you know, like Manny said and Carlos said too, just the fact that it's like the movie is basically going, hey, remember these other Spider-Man movies that you like better than this one? Here you go. Let's take these villains instead of giving you know, this new Peter his own Green Goblin. Let's take the Green Goblin from 20 years ago. Let's bring him in here. Let's bring all these other guys from other movies to prop this one up. You know, so it just felt like cheap nostalgia, which I'm getting so sick of in a lot of modern movies. Even The Matrix is the same bullshit. Like, hey, remember this movie? So it just kept doing. I'm like, oh my fucking god! So it just completely threw me out of it. But with that said, yes, it is the best of the Holland movies, but that's not saying much because those have been the weakest Spider-Man movies, with the exception of the second Andrew Garfield, which is absolutely terrible. But Holland movies have always been like, yeah, so this one was a little bit better. And the only thing I liked about this movie is, yes, the promise that we will finally have Spider-Man movies that aren't dependent on a big brother or some shit like that, where my man has his own costume and everything. We're good to go. But yeah, this movie just felt like it was just going for the cheap wins. Like, oh, here's the nostalgia. Remember Tobey Maguire? Remember this? Remember that? The other thing. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I know everybody's hyping. I'm glad this movie is working for a lot of people. I'm happy it's making people money and shit. That's fantastic. But for me, it didn't fucking work.
Chris, please save something.
Well, I thought it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I think there was a threshold for member berries that it crossed. So I do agree with Tony with that. There was, I mean, literally they had they were like, hey, these Spider-Man memes, the pointing meme, and remember when William Dafoe said the thing? I'm kind of science. They repeat that in this movie because it's like, because remember it, and so there's definitely, it was leaning very heavily on that. I will say, yeah, it is the best of the Holland movies. It's I think it's it worked. The action was great. Like the bridge fight was great. Like all the action choreography, the end fight scene with all the Spider-Men, and they kind of comment that they were like, oh, we don't work as a team, so we don't know what we're doing. And I did like that. I like some of the banter with them. But yeah, the one thing that the movie did, which was a mistake, was kind of deflate the whole premise. Like Tony says, he goes to Doctor Strange to fix the universe, and then you immediately derail that with a joke by saying like, oh, you could have just called MIT, right, and fixed this. Like, don't do that, because you derailed your plot like with a cheap joke just for a laugh. Like it's like, oh, he's still a stupid kid, and he could have just did this, and that would have fixed his problem, which was getting into MIT.
Oh, also, Chris, just real quick, pressing the button at any time could have ended this movie.
Oh yeah. You had the MacGuffin. Like, really? Yeah, this giant MacGuffin, the box that they're carrying around, literally could press
the button and end this movie.
You know? And they're constantly taunting this, and you know, and it's like, no, he has to do the right thing or whatever. No, just push that shit, and this all ends. But yeah, with that said, it's a good movie. It's literally the best Marvel movie we've had in Phase 4, easily. Easily. Everything else is trash. Yeah. That's how trash the Marvel movies have been, like, so far. So Sony is literally carrying Phase 4 for Marvel. I hope Disney's happy about that. I'm just saying it.
Tony did cry at the end of Black Widow because it was over.
Because it was so bad. Fucking trash ass movie.
I didn't hate that movie, but
that movie was horrible. Why is it so damn long? That dinner scene, like, why are we still here? Get this shit over with. You know?
Yo, wrap it up.
Go check out our spoiler cast for that if you want my thoughts.
Am I on that one? I can't remember.
I don't remember. You were on one of them, though.
No, you've only been on one other one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It might have been that one.
Yeah, maybe.
Might have been that one.
It might have been. I don't know.
So then let's
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Let's So then let's go into the plot you guys completely hated. Was the fact that, yes, I personally, you guys already know, I love the movie. Maybe you don't know. I love the movie. I thought it was amazing. Grown men cried in my theater. I thought it was very touching, and that it showed, if you look at it as a trilogy, it showed Spider-Boy finally becoming a Spider-Man, and him no longer being able to rely on other people. So I kind of really liked the transition, and I liked the movie, and I thought it was really great. So we already kind of dived into the plot, and you guys stated how much you just didn't like the plot, with the fact that you have him. It takes place right after the previous Spider-Man. Everyone knows his identity. Mysterio framed it so it looked like he was the villain. We have people taking sides who are for, who are against Spider-Man. Did you like how they tried to pit people against and for him? Because we've seen it a little bit, but it only touched on it a little bit. It could have delved deeper into a divided.
The beginning of that movie is called Spider-Man Gets Canceled.
Oh yeah,
he's literally dealing with all the shit that people hating him, like, "Hey man, you're wrong." "Yeah man, you're right." Well, you know, the one thing is that they sort of just cleared it all up in the montage. You know, like, you know, with, you know, Daredevil shows up and he essentially just like, "Yeah, I got him off. It's all good. Technicality."
Yeah, Daredevil fixed it. He's like,
Daredevil fixed it. I mean, that would be the only time Daredevil did fix anything, and he wasn't late to his fucking meeting, because that to his court cases, because that was the whole Daredevil series. There he is. That's at the point where somebody throws a brick through the window and he just catches it, and they're like, he's like, "What kind of lawyer are you?" And he goes, "A very good one." So it's like, all right. It was nice to see Charlie Cox playing again, probably one of my favorite casting of you know, Marvel heroes, because he really did a great job at it. So yeah, you know, I understand why they tried to obviously you could kind of tell that they didn't fully plan this, because, you know, it was the "oh no" moment at the end of the other movie, but then then they just sort of clear it up. It's like, all right, and then now everybody knows. I didn't hate it, but I just think it's like, yeah, it's a little, it just got cleared up really quickly. But I guess the main thing was just the repercussions of people knowing that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, which is one of the main cruxes of this film. So, yeah.
Anyone else have any other thoughts? Because as you're saying previously, remember, it was supposed to end in the previous movie. It wasn't. Remember, we canceled because they canceled their deal. So.
Yeah, there was also that. They weren't sure if there was going to be another Spider-Man film. So this is essentially them writing themselves out of a corner.
Yeah, well, it's also a strategic move for the future, because Sony wants as little Marvel attachment. I mean, Marvel Studios attachment. This is why they reset Holland's Spider-Man. The Stark stuff is gone. The characters, he doesn't need to interact with Happy Hogan anymore. He makes his own suit. He's his own Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
That's what this movie set up. So all the Stark tech is gone. You know, he makes his own suit. He doesn't use the nano suit or the other ones. He doesn't have the fabricator. That gets destroyed. All the Stark stuff gets confiscated by the government. So that's all gone, right? Conveniently.
Yeah.
I mean,
just real quick on that. I think that, you know, obviously we weren't going to get that because the trailer already kind of blew everything up. But I think that would have been a more interesting movie. Him dealing with the repercussion of the world knowing Spider-Man. We got that out of the way in like the first 20 minutes. I think the entire movie would have been more interesting than this multiverse shit that we.
I think the one thing is that like the realization that people knowing that he's Spider-Man and the people that he's sort of associated with also, you know, sort of made him make the decision that he did make. You know, what Chris touched upon it before, where he goes over to Doctor Strange and stuff like that to try to fix it, because it wasn't the fact that he wasn't going to go to MIT. He probably wouldn't have cared. It's just the fact that, you know, MJ and Ned were also affected by the repercussions of this.
Well, and also, I don't think it's just the whole MIT thing. I think he just feels bad that everyone that he knows and loves is under a microscope.
They're all affected by this. Whereas if nobody did know, that they would just go about their business. You know, everybody be fine. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole crux of Spider-Man and why he wears the masks. Where it's like, you know, yes, it's great and all, but he's just supposed to be a normal kid. And what happens if you don't live the superhero life like Captain America, right? Or if you're not a multi-billionaire like Tony Stark, who can essentially is their own shield, is their own existence where they live. He's probably the only one that has a real normal life that he has to go back to after he fights the purple guy in space.
Yeah, and again, that would have been a more interesting movie. I think.
I don't feel like I would enjoy 3 hours of a canceling movie.
Well,
it's like that's too close to real life.
We don't need 3 hours period of a movie. That's the other thing. This movie went on a little bit too long. Like,
yeah, it was pretty long.
But again, that's a problem with a lot of modern movies. Even the James Bond movie, which I like, why is the movie so fucking long? You know, like can we go back to 2 hour movies, please? You know,
but I like also I talked about it before. He obviously he goes over to Doctor Strange. You know, that storyline, that is actually a story. It's not only One More Day that it's based off of, but it's also based off of Happy Birthday, which is another story. That's the Spider-Man 800 issue where he essentially fights every single villain throughout throughout all time.
Yeah.
Because he does the same thing. He fucks with while Doctor Strange is doing a spell. He's like talking to him and then it causes this crazy shit to happen.
Yeah, that was dumb too, by the way.
That was that story was just an excuse to get him to fight every single villain throughout all the time. That was but the ending of that was also really good. What was the good part where he essentially talks to a future version of himself who's at the darkest point of his life, which is the leather jacket Spider-Man. That's the Straczynski run, by the way, Tony.
Yeah, I know. It was contrived back then too, though.
Yeah.
Let's just be real,
Yeah, I feel like going back to the premise, I think the premise of all of these plots for MCU movies are kind of stupid. So I'm used to it. So it's just more of where do you want to get?
Yeah.
And I feel like the overall message and where it leads to, I felt was the strong point of this movie. Like I mentioned earlier, Tom Holland acted the shit out of this movie. I felt like he did a great job. This is by far his best performance in any of these movies. And I also feel like, it was a great homage to just, the larger universe and all of the other characters that led to it. And I'm like, hey, do you want a last chance to see Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe play these like awesome characters? And I was like, hey, let's do it. I'm all in. Like I felt like that was worth a dumb plot because most of these are stupid ass plots. I just feel like where we're getting to and the byproducts of all of this stuff, I felt like what was worth it. Especially that Doctor Strange Spider-Man fight scene was fucking amazing. I felt like that was one of the best fight scenes.
The mirror dimension fight.
The mirror dimension stuff.
Yeah.
Well, anytime they do that crazy ass mirror dimension shit, it's always like, what the fuck? Like I remember seeing the original Doctor Strange and they're literally falling through a twisting world. It's literally like they're falling through in the Inception stuff.
We just needed the wong.
Yeah, just needed that. Yeah.
Okay.
He just needed that. And he's like flipping around, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really.
By the way,
it was just too many. That specific thing, the way it ended was stupid. It's like I'm gonna beat you with math. I'm like, all right, bro.
I mean, Spider-Man is Spider-Man.
His intelligence.
That's suspicions of the disbelief. Math essentially subverts magic.
Yeah, it's wizard magic. Like, all right,
I'm okay. I'm sort of okay with it because it's sort of him using his mind, even though as silly as it is. It's like, all right.
By the way, Dana, there is a delay between you and the rest of us. So just if we're cutting you off, we're not intending to.
Yeah, shut off some of those programs.
Shut them programs down. One thing I did have to say is I think
you're muted, Dana. By the way,
you're not talking.
Yeah, you're muted now.
Yeah, but you're not muted through Streamlabs or whatever the fuck this shit's called.
Oh yeah, like we can't hear you on our side. What is this future? Why doesn't anything work? This is all a conspiracy by Spider-Man.
It really is.
using his web of lies to
Web of lies.
using his web of lies to cover up the truth about everything. I don't know.
It's funny. I did like some of the dialogue between the characters. I liked Alfred Molina making fun of Doctor Strange. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you do birthday parties?" And then I forgot what Doctor Strange did. He's like, "How did you do that?" He's like, "A lot of birthday parties."
Yeah, a lot of birthday parties. I did like a lot of the little bits of interactions, because obviously a lot of the characters had this history between them. You know, when Goblin finally comes in, he goes, "Octavius, what are you doing here?" You know, it's like, or you know, Octavius giving essentially a light history of the thing, essentially saying, "Hey, yeah, that green guy that just escaped there, he's dead." So
when then all of them realizing that they're
Sandman tells Octavius he's dead. He's like, "Yeah, you died too."
Yeah, you
What do you mean I
died
died?
too? It's like, wait, I'm not dead. And then them sort of explaining their final moments. But here's the thing, like there's a couple of different things that don't make sort of sense. I think some of them don't actually know who Peter Parker is.
Yeah. They don't, and you know,
like
I'm skipping ahead right now, but like, think about like this with Venom. He didn't know. How the fuck did he get to the
how does
universe?
Venom does Venom know that
did any of us see the second movie? Because I didn't.
He doesn't.
Even in this movie, he's like, "I'm gonna go see this Spider-Man guy." You know.
Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't.
It's the hive mind.
Yeah. Oh, they know. We hear you, man.
It's the symbiote hive mind.
The symbiote hive mind is interdimensional.
No, remember, yes, it is. Because remember, he was explaining in the previous movie, he said we all shared the same connection. No matter where we are in the universe, we're all connected. So that's why that Tom Hardy's Venom knew who Peter Parker was.
Oh, okay.
So wait, let me get this straight. So his Venom has access to the multiverse of other Venoms.
Yeah.
That's fucking stupid. I'm sorry, that's dumb. That's dumb. That is absolutely another contrivance with this
That's
movie.
why he licked the TV. That was to show he knows who that Tom Holland is. Who that version
well, he knows who Spider-Man is, yeah.
I mean, I'm not even looking at any of that Tom Hardy shit as even connected, because it's dumb. It's dumb anyway. All it was just to pop the fans after that silly Venom movie, and then like it literally just gets concluded at the end of this movie. But let's go back to let's go back to the actual villains that are in this movie.
So
there's a problem now that we open Tom Hardy with the Tom Hardy can of worms. The problem is they were setting up Tom Hardy to be in Tom Holland's universe, and then they just said he's not. Yeah. That he disappears at the end in his post-credit scene. He's not part of that universe, and then leaves a little bit of symbiote behind. That was fucking dumb.
That was ridiculous. Everything should have gone back.
It's horrible. That was a horrible decision.
Yeah, like why
you've been baiting people with Tom Hardy. You're setting up his Venom as a Venom of the Sony Spider-Man universe. Then you just said in one post-credit scene that he is not connected to that universe at all. He blips out of the bar and leaves which is going to establish you have to do the black Spider-Man costume all over again and set up another Venom in the Tom Holland movies. It's fucking stupid. You already have one.
It differently?
Maybe, and by the way, just on that, and then we'll go back to the main story. And Chris, I'm sorry, he could have chopped the finger off. Everything should have went back to the dimension, not just like, oh, I left a little piece behind. No, even that little piece should have went too.
Yes,
it's part of that other universe.
It's part of that other universe.
But that goes to my problem with the other problem with this movie. The magic, like it's so fucking inconsistent. It makes no sense, and this is why I don't like magic in general. Unless it has like hard, firm rules. It's just soft magic. I'm like, and you're supposed to. There's only so much you can suspend your disbelief until it just completely throws you out of this movie. You know,
and all these characters are pulled out of different time periods in their movies. Like that, Tobey Maguire knows he's after post Spider-Man 3, so he has seen all this shit. He has fought his Venom. He has he talked about Harry Osborn dying in his arms and all this shit. So you're gonna send him back to his dimension and then send Norman Osborn back to his time period where now he's not dead. That would change everything.
Yeah,
I would
they
say,
didn't talk
I
about
would
that,
say,
did they?
but
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's because we're not getting toward the end of the movie already now. But
We're kind
again,
of just jumping all over the place.
yeah, but I would
Yeah.
say, like, the one thing is, like, not all those people actually know who Peter Parker is. So Electro never knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
Yeah,
At any point, he never took off his mask and said, "Hey, you know, Peter Parker, don't kill me."
Yeah, remember, he
never did
mentioned he's like, I thought you would be a brother. Remember, he said that.
Yeah, he
so-
did say that. Yeah.
So, but yeah, like, so yeah, like, so it's a weird one. Like, how is it that you know, he didn't know, but he apparently gets pulled over?
You know why? Because like, hey, we need Jamie Foxx in this movie. So
And then
let's
the
make this shit up.
other thing is that you know, there's some slight differences between them, and the people have been saying, "Oh, they're variants or some bullshit," because of that dumb Loki show.
Yeah,
adding that garbage in there. So, like, that they are them, but they're maybe not their variant versions of them.
That's ridiculous.
I don't know. But anyway, but like, you know, everybody gets a little bit of something. You know, they get a little history of each other, and that's really cool. You know, the Lizard obviously didn't get a lot of information out because, you know, he's the Lizard. He just wants to blow everything. He wants to turn everybody into lizards. It's the one thing I also found a little silly was, you know, where, you know, Doctor Strange just essentially wipes his hands after Spider-Man interrupts him and they fuck the spell up. He just closes it away, and then he just sort of wipes his hand of it, you know, after the whole bridge fight,
and doesn't come back till way later in the movie.
Yeah, it's a weird one because he's like, Scooby-Doo this shit, you know. But the thing about it is, like, okay, I get it because they want to go back to the kids, you know, doing that stuff, and they're dynamic. But at the same time, it's like, look, Doctor Strange just proved that he could fucking instantly zap everybody into that thing. He did it with Dr. Octopus. Like, he just, like, you're about to, the whole fights are happening, yada yada. He literally got the Lizard in there on his own. He's all beat up looking. So it's like, okay, so Doctor Strange is literally could have literally got all those guys into the thing on his own if he wanted to.
Yeah.
So
it's
yep.
Go ahead, Dana. No, go ahead. No,
no, finish your sentence.
No, we're good. No, it's just again because we gotta just compensate because you're on delay. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm still on. God damn it. Really simple was we were talking about the spell and the reason why he, you know, you guys were talking about how he messed up the spell because Peter wouldn't shut up. And Peter basically wanted it both ways. He wanted where he's able to keep his identity and his friends only know. And so I thought this was to show that you can't have everything your way and that you're going to have to start making choices and sacrifices about your life. I could be the only one who thinks that. And because he screwed it up, now we're going to the villains. It ended up bringing in all of the people who knew Peter Parker, all of the Peter Parkers, but it somehow just only brought in the villains, which made it convenient for the movie. So I just wanted to get your opinion on everyone as an individual. Were they strong enough? Did it make any sense? So you had Doc Ock, you had Electro, you had Green Goblin. We also got Sandman, and we got Crocodile, who
The
existed.
lizard.
The lizard.
The lizard.
Yeah.
Oh,
Lizard man.
the lizard.
He's
So
the
was
lizard.
there anyone
It's
that
much
you
easier than
most-
crocodile.
Okay. Then
Well,
the lizard.
I
Was there
feel
anyone
like they had a missed opportunity though. Like, I think it would have been a bolder move to let the fucking sky crack and let the Spider-Verse like spill into there, and then the next movie he solves all this shit, right? Then you could have brought in, Sony could have been like, okay, we're gonna unleash everything that we have access to, put in Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales. You put in everybody, right? And do the live action Spider-Verse movie you want to do, right? You had the animated one that did well. You could have done the live action one, and that would have been, I thought that would have been a bolder move than just the MacGuffin and Doctor Strange fixes everything, and that's it.
Well, remember
But,
the previous movie they thought was an end.
Well, no, because Sony has access to that whole Spider-Man part of Marvel. They have all those characters. And they kind of like, you have them teetering on the edge because if other villains spilled in, then other spider people would have spilled in too. and you could have made that work somehow. Like have Spider-Man ultimately fix it and not have, I mean, yes, he had his fight with Green Goblin, all that shit, and I think they should have had a villain from the Holland universe or something be the main thing. It was William Dafoe ends up being the main foil. That's the main fight, right? That's the last battle.
Yeah,
and you're just like, really?
I actually liked, in general, like the one like plus to having all those really strong actors in there. Like you don't need to show a lot of them, but they literally just essentially up the film quality. Like just Willem Dafoe just jumping back into there, essentially sort of taking that fatherly role that sort of was vacant by Tony Stark and all the other guys. So instead of being like, hey, you could do this, like stuff like that. Well, I did find that sort of dynamic was nice. Also essentially Alfred Molina, Dr. Octopus, I liked him too, where he's still in that goofy space where his arms control his mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, they're all strong actors and they did well, but I don't like Tony made this point earlier. They lean too heavily on these old villains, these old characters, and then it's like we're back to fighting 20-year-old plus Green Goblin is the main villain.
Yeah, that's my problem right there. Just to go on this real quick, because I'm pretty much repeating what you guys said, and we're also repeating myself again. It's like whatever cool moments where it's like, hey, look at Willem Dafoe, he was great. Oh, Octopus was awesome. You're like, they shouldn't be in this movie in the first place. The reason they're here is ridiculous. So no matter what I enjoyed, my mind always went back to what set this up in the first. And since I didn't like that, it was just so overt. Like, remember these Spider-Man movies? It's like, oh my God. I do. Like, it would have been so much better if he would have had his own version of Dr. his own version of Green Goblin. Like, that would have been better. But but again, since they wrote themselves into that hole in the last one, and Sony has that desire to do their own thing, they had to make this movie to do a complete reset. So again, as much fun as some of these villains were, it's like I can never let go of the fact of what brought them there and how contrived it was. So
I do agree.
And again, that final fight with him, he's fighting Green Goblin, supposed to be this big epic fight. And you're like, you're fighting the old Green Goblin. You're fighting Willem Dafoe from 20 years ago. This is stupid. I do think like the one again, even the again, I go back to the dependent Spider-Man, right? What Tom Holland is essentially he's dependent on a bunch of different things, even to get his own villains. Like if you look at any of all the villains that you got, even from the first Homecoming movie, his villain Toomes is a direct effect of all the Avengers bullshit that happened, from the other movies. The second Mysterio is essentially a former Tony Stark guy that that is a disgruntled Tony Stark guy. So officially in all the films, he has never had a villain that has been a creation of that has come in from his own universe. It's always been the greater Marvel universe's factoring into the movies. Yeah. And now this one just exacerbates that problem, because now it's not only within the MCU, now it's other Marvel universes coming in where he has to depend on those franchises now. So the problem with the Hollywood movies were just heightened by this one. It's like, oh, this guy does not have his own thing at all. It's just we have to borrow other things and lean on that cheap nostalgia to get that cheap, easy pop.
I think the only thing that the Holland movies has that truly belongs to its own to itself is the dynamic between the characters are directly around Peter Parker. That's Aunt May. That's the two kids. MJ and the other guy. It's those guys. It's those guys together that seems to be the one thing that actually that is unique and new within it. Where all these external forces outside are always jumping into their world. Go ahead.
Can we call a spade here?
What's up?
Can you name me a superhero trilogy that's been a great trilogy, like consistent 3 movies all around? It's impossible. You can't find that anywhere.
Yeah, it's always this one is This one,
Lord of the Rings is not superhero.
It's not
though.
superhero. This is the one weird one where the last movie is actually better than the previous ones. It's like reversed.
and I,
okay.
Oh no, sorry, go ahead.
No, good.
And I feel like I had no issues with the callbacks with the other characters. I feel like their whole purpose, there's two purposes to bringing them around. Number one is, the most important one is to pay respects to those characters, because, you know, Doc Ock and you know, Goblin had their one-arounds and stuff, and you know, it's cool if you can bring them back in a sort of way where it's not like, oh, we're gonna use them like Palpatine and they're gonna be the villains for going on for every freaking movie. But it's like it's another one-off where, you know, they get to you know, shine again, and yeah, I think the whole purpose, and number two, I felt the whole purpose of this was to make sure that Tom Holland's Spider-Man sort of learns from, you know, the actions done in the previous installments. You know, almost literally, that's what they're trying to interpret here. So if it's done tastefully, if it's done in a good way, I felt like I have no issues with them using it. Yeah, it is easy and cheap nostalgia that can be attributed to a lot of this, but also it can be done really distasteful in a lot of ways.
I do want to harp on something you said, Carlos. Just one word: if done tastefully.
Yes.
I personally don't feel it was. I felt it was way too contrived. You could have had this exact same type of story, just set up better. Again, I'm going back to what I said, the initial setup. Hey, everything's fucked up. Can you help? Can you whip up a dangerous spell for me? Sure, kid, let's go. You know,
yes.
I never get past that. You know,
I do feel that is stupid. I do agree. Yeah. But I agree with Dana. Also, it's like, I think the broader message, even though the execution is in a stupid manner. I mean, a lot, and I keep harkening back, because a lot of these movies, the way that they you know, it's like, oh, what is his name? The last villain, not Mephisto, Mysterio. It's like his fucking origin story was stupid.
That was dumb too. You know,
it's like,
again, it's a problem with these Holland movies, man. You know, the setups, but this one's just like worse.
And I feel like, you know, a lot of these movies have stupid like premises to create the plots. But I also do agree with Dana. I feel like at least the message in this was, you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And that's sort of what Spider-Man was doing. He was sort of being like an entitled like kid. It's like, oh, like, yeah, I want everyone to forget about me. That doesn't need to be. Oh, but what about Aunt May? What about Zendaya or MJ? Or my best friend? It's like, all right, kid, you want too much. But it's like, yeah, it's stupid, but at least the broader message, it makes sense for me. And yeah, by the way, I also wanted to bring something up, and I find it funny because before that, also, this is the first movie I go to in fucking years because of fucking COVID. So I had anxiety up the roof, man, because it's like 2 hours with people that I don't know, literally shoulder to shoulder, and I'm like, fuck. But anyways,
I didn't have it. I was ready. I was ready to go to the movies, man. Like,
I was ready too. I was ready too. I just didn't want someone literally right next to me. But I mean, I knew what I was getting into. But it just felt weird because I haven't been in that situation in a while, and obviously
all
with
these
the COVID
strangers,
stuff, all these strangers,
from the greater multiverse in my.
they all know Peter Parker. There are some.
They all know who Peter Parker. But go
ahead. Finish up, Carlos. You were making a point.
And I was really surprised because there's this dichotomy, and we talk about this in Throwdown a lot about, you know, the people that are in the know and the people who are just mainstream regular dudes. And it's like when the other Spider-Man show up, everyone lost their freaking minds. And I'm like, I knew about this years ago.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just interesting, you know, being in a movie theater experience where people are genuinely surprised by something. Even to the extent where Charlie Cox and his Daredevil show up, Matt Murdock, and it's like I would have been surprised if whoever didn't leak this thing like 2 days ago before the movie came out. So it's just interesting. A lot of my movie viewing experiences, at least with these MCU movies, can get can affect it in either a negative or a positive way, just because we're in the know too much.
Yeah. By the way, I because I do plan to rewatch this because Manny, you'll know this too. Half the time I couldn't hear anything because we were in a movie theater with a bunch of crazy Puerto Ricans, right? So they're just going fucking crazy the whole time. Like with the Mad Murdock. The only thing I heard him say was, "I'm a good lawyer," because the whole time people were like, "Oh my god, it's happening!" They're losing their fucking minds, in a good way,
Yeah, it was because the guy who set up the event. It was it was in Williamsburg. It was in and Edgardo sort of had a lot of his people and all the people from his thing invited to this screening. So it was all Puerto Rican. So he's like, yo man, he's like, everybody's like, tell you to shut up. Yo man, let it fly.
I mean, that's not related to this one, but even despite my feelings with the movie, that screening, Edgardo, thank you, that was fucking awesome. I had a great time, especially when they brought the band out and shit.
Yeah, we had a performance before it and all that stuff, and I did some prints for it which I gave away to everyone who came into the show. So it was a good thing, but what was it?
Yeah, the point is, I was just trying to make it like, I need to watch this because I didn't catch some of that. Because right, when you see some Marvel movies, because this happens to everybody. When you go see Marvel movies, motherfuckers get crazy. Like obviously, like Carlos was saying, with us, we know this stuff, so we don't get too hyped about it. We're like, all right, whatever, that's cool. Like even with Charlie Cox, we already knew about that shit. We knew about Garfield. We knew about all these other characters. We already knew that shit, but some of these people may not have known. So I do understand their enthusiasm because they're not fucking jaded and cynical like us critics are. I will freely admit that I have seen too much, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Not to go too off topic, but this is a perfect example of this. Even though it's with video games, is related to this, right? When I first saw the new Xbox Series X, right, I was like, that's cool. I'm checking out whatever. Then Michael Santiago, when Danny showed it to me, he's like, oh my god, this is great, this is insane. So there's a difference between the critics and the movie going audiences, anyway, continue.
To go back onto the previous characters, like what Carlos was saying, I like from an entertainment standpoint, I really enjoyed the movie. I said this at the end of the show, at the end of like, before at some point I said this, I haven't bought a Marvel movie on Blu-ray or DVD in years, ever since Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, you know what? This is one I would actually like to own on Blu-ray or DVD, just for the plain fact that, again, there's a lot of contrivities within the film, and I do feel like like there was two. When I was sitting there at the end of the film, I felt like there was two versions of me. There was the one that was like that enjoyed the spectacle of all of it, which and then seeing these characters again and all that other stuff. And then there was the other side of me who was saying, this also feels like a cheap pop at the same time.
Yeah,
it's like
I did not let that part go. That was the whole movie.
That was the two versions. So it's like, again, like on this movie, I'm in the middle of it, where it's like, I like aspects of it, just like the other films. There's aspects of the other film that I like. There's aspects of this film that I like, but there's also aspects of this film that I just think that are a little like, oh god, here we go. Well, he messed up this. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry to interject, Manny, but I wanted to bring up a point about what you just mentioned. I don't want to watch Tom Holland fighting a new Doc Ock. I don't want to watch Tom Holland fight the new Green Goblin, because I'm gonna be, and this is a personal thing. I just don't feel like they can ever live up to Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe.
I mean, that's part of the reason why when they made the following movies, they never retread. Well, at least they tried not to retread the same ground. With the first Spider-Man, the first Andrew Garfield Spider-Man was Electro. The second one was
no. The first one was the Lizard. And
was the Lizard? Excuse me, sorry. Was the Lizard? Then the next one was Electro.
Yeah. By the way, real quick, Carlos, I'm the one that said that. Here's my thing, right? And this, by the way, usually during these movies things, I always reference comics. This is the first time I don't have any comics to reference because my problems are just sorely with this movie alone. But I will say this though, to me, I feel you what you're saying, that yes, you can't have another actor that's going to top Willem Dafoe, whatever. I get that, but at the same time, who are you going to bring next? Shocker, the fucking water guy. Like, you need to bring the heavy guys in, because the only other Spider-Man villains you have are fucking cheapos.
Well,
I don't want to see them fight the Wizard or some shit like that. Or
funny.
whatever the fuck.
The thing about it is that the sad part of it is that also Spider-Man in general has never had a really good rogues gallery.
No, Spider-Man has I'll push back against that. I would say Spider-Man has one of the best rogues gallery. It's just they've already had them.
But I'm saying, like, he doesn't have a lot of the really, really good ones. They've already essentially, blew their load. They blew their load on all the iconic villains. What are you gonna have now? You're gonna have Kraven,
Pace Pot Pete. You're gonna show
up.
What about Kingpin?
Yeah, that's true. Even though now he's more considered a Daredevil.
No, he's like a Daredevil villain now. So like you can't really work it. What are you gonna? If anything, like if we wanted to recontextualize this movie, where it's essentially you could have made this a Kingpin movie, where essentially he finds out who Spider-Man is and is trying to fuck his life over.
You mean like one more? Was it Born Again? Like
Born Again. Yeah, like he essentially was somehow like you could have that in this movie. I don't know.
But again, that would be dependent on the franchise, though.
It'd be we'd be in the same boat.
And that is one of the negative things with bringing Matt Murdock back, is that the Kingpin that exists in his universe has to exist in this one. Yes. So, and he's already in jail, kind of already left for dead. But yeah, I feel like they could have. I mean, they can always bring him back, but he's gonna need sort of kind of like a sidekick kind of character to help propel him, because he's already been brought down by what a lot of people would say is a lesser hero in Daredevil, even though he's fucking awesome. But he's no Spider-Man in terms of just, that whole gravitas and stuff. But I don't know, maybe like bring Rhino and stuff like that and have them tag team or something against Spider-Man. but yeah, it's difficult, and I understand like what you guys have mentioned. That's why a lot of these villains that have been brought up post Peter what's his name? Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. It's just, sort of the lesser villains, like the lizard guy. And
but I mean, here's the thing: like they've redone the Joker like 10 different times. I mean,
yeah, but also we also have to take into account that these movies aren't that far apart. The reason why we're getting so many of these movies is because of the license.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
So the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man started came on in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm. So, no, you're 100% right about that.
We haven't had that much time to digest. Probably like in 20 years from now, we can definitely make another Doc Ock.
Yeah, but they're probably going to we're probably going to do them in a couple more years, because that's the other thing. It's like until the day we die, we're going to keep getting new Spider-Man villains, and I'm already getting tired of these constant reboots. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, Dana, go on.
So to kind of move
before the cops come.
I'm so sorry. My windows are closed. I'm on the 28th floor. Sound travels up. So to kind of continue with this, during the interviews, what especially Alfred Molina and the one who plays Green Goblin, William Dafoe, stated was, for them, their villains, it is finally their redemption story. They are not considered villains for the sake of moving the story along. This is to bring forth everything that they have done in the past and for them to redeem themselves from it. I see your face, Manny. So when in the movie, I thought you was like a little scrunchy, like, no, I don't believe that.
No, but we'll talk about it later. I'm concentrating on your words.
Okay, so my main thing is this. They were all snapped up in their various universes right before they were supposed to die. My question to you is, do you feel that these characters were redeemed, and now that they're technically no longer dead, does that mean they change in their respective universe? So are they no longer villain?
I would say this is also a big tangled web of stuff, because the essentially, I mean, here's the thing. I do think it's a very Spider-Man thing to want to cure all the villains of their things. I mean, even within their own existence of all these movies, Spider-Man has always said, I can fix this, I could do this. I mean, I do understand that, but also, yeah, like them returning to them to their worlds also weirds out whatever happens. You know what I mean? So like Dr. Octopus, like we go back to Green Goblin. If he gets cured of being at the end of the end of Spider-Man, because it was at the end of Spider-Man when he finds out that Spider-Man, when he finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, that's when he gets zapped off. For Dr. Octopus is when he pulls off his mask and he's like, oh, Dr. Oz, we got to stop this. Then he gets pulled off. So all of them are at the moment that they supposedly found out when he was Peter Parker was Spider-Man. The thing is that now the idea is like, they bring up the idea of wanting to cure all of them and not actually wanting to kill them. And not all of them actually die either. Sandman did not die. Well, who else didn't die? Did the Lizard? The Lizard didn't die either, right?
No, I don't think
he cured him.
No. Yeah.
So how is it? What did they do? Did he die later? You know what I mean? Or is it some other weird? Again, we're talking about dumb variants again, or like there's some weird variant of them that actually did die. What's his face? Did Jamie Foxx die in his movie? I guess he did, right?
Probably, yeah.
I guess he did. He's energy, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's a weird dichotomy with those things. Because again, essentially, you'll be changing the past of those things, or are they alternate universe versions of them in their own worlds where these factors didn't happen? Because the minute that you close out the Green Goblin, he doesn't get stabbed. Harry Osborn doesn't become the Green Goblin in Spider-Man 3. A bunch of stuff doesn't happen, no emo Spider-Man. No emo Spider-Man. That also may affect Spider-Man 2. Where remember where what's his face was putting money into Dr. Octavius's company. To build the power of the sun in my hand. That
Harry Osborn was funding him.
Yeah, Harry Osborn was doing that. So when he took over, he was doing all this stuff for him. So it's weird. I know they're just like, we'll deal with that. We're not going to really mention any of that, but it also sort of creates all these weird these inconsistencies if you were to return cured versions of all of them back to their world. I mean, it does give a happy ending to them as villains, because Dr. Octopus never did want to be a horrible thing. It was just his hands. It was his octopus hands that made him evil. And, the gas that made the Goblin evil, and turning into a lizard made that guy evil. And, getting electrical powers made Electro evil. You ever notice how like nobody's actually evil in movies anymore? They're like, oh, it was something else that made me evil.
Well, Melina, you can argue that Doc was evil because he made the choice to be evil even after they fixed him.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He didn't make the choice to be evil. It wasn't even anything. He helped them on purpose because they did fix him. He wasn't part of that deal.
Yeah, I remember he tricked the villains.
He tricked the villains. He just said like, "Oh, I got this one," and then he fixed them. So no, he was fine.
Even in Spider-Man 2, he's the one that held the little place together so a Spider-Man can leave.
Yeah, he fought the split personality of the silly arm things to do that at the end. But I mean, Sandman did turn evil, but at the same time, he I don't know what his deal was. I think maybe he somehow connected with Electro, falling into an experiment.
Well, Sandman also became a good guy in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, he did. But also,
they continued that because he was still good. So.
Yeah, he started off good, but then he's like, "Do you really trust this Spider-Man that you don't recognize?" It's like, maybe I don't. He's what you call he's more of a grayish villain, and I feel like Electro was just like, I want power. I don't know. I think with the situation of all those villains, once you think about the repercussions of returning them back to their worlds all cured out, it all essentially changes those worlds. But again, the way the silly movie Marvel universe says is that even if you fixed all these guys, they're all going to be different. They've all created alternate dimensions of their worlds.
Yeah, and I think the purpose of that wasn't even to, I mean, because I don't think they even care about what their interpretations are going to be.
No, those movies are done. You could think of this as the ending for those characters, or you could just disavow any of it, because obviously they got returned, so it's all fixed. They closed the door on it already.
Where's the TVA to come and arrest everybody?
Yeah, how come the TVA, the number one, the TVA should have gotten involved as soon as Doctor
Well, it was
Strange revealed all
destroyed.
that. Well, obviously, so at the end of Loki, it was all back up again. What was that?
Yeah, it's just Kang's
No,
version.
at the end, it's Kang's version, and so I think they're preoccupied with things. They're not really thinking about what's going on. It's weird.
TVA should, and they're like, yes, the movie fucking with time could happen, but this other one, no, that can't happen. No, it's weird. But anyway, you know, I just feel like for the sake of the movie, it holds just enough water. But if you think about any of that stuff too hard, it just all falls through. I think a lot of it is just sort of getting these people into the place where they need to be so that they can have this big, you know, nostalgia fight.
Can I say something negative? I've been saying a lot of positive things.
Oh,
can you say something controversial?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, this is. Where's Richard Bailey Jr.?
Yeah.
I wish he was here.
Where's Richard, man?
This is definitely.
He's stuck in Boston buying wine for a party.
Oh,
he partying. I did not like. I loved everything about this scene, except for one part. With great power comes great responsibility. I fucking lost it. I was like, no, you could have said anything else and it would have been perfect. Except that. Those are the only lines you can't say in this specific part, and it'll just derail me and take me out of that experience. I was so mad, man.
Carlos?
Yeah.
I'm with you, brother.
Yo, man.
I'm like, what, really?
No,
really? So you didn't hear that? She could have at least said, like, hey, remember what your Uncle Ben said? Like, give a reference. No,
I don't even think that in the Holland
connective thread.
I don't think even in the Holland universe, Uncle Ben is even a factor. I think he died, but I don't think he was the catalyst that made him going into being Spider-Man at all. Not like in the previous.
That's the thing. They don't explain. Yeah, they don't explain.
Because I feel like
I guess
when Spider-Man became Spider-Man, when essentially Tony Stark peeped him, he commissioned him into the thing. I think the whole Ben thing didn't happen. I think the reason I
thought they alluded to it. I thought they said like, "Oh, the tragedy happened. That's why I started doing this."
Well,
they didn't say it. They alluded to a tragedy.
It alluded to a tragedy or something like that, but I don't think it fully happened the way it really think it happened. Right?
It could be, but we also don't want to make that assumption either.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, like, is it the words of Uncle Ben, or are these the words of Aunt May?
Yeah,
has Aunt May become the new Uncle Ben, the Uncle Ben or catalyst to become become a Spider-Man?
That's what it seems like. Yeah, that's what it seems like.
And that's what it seems like.
And that's why it is. And that's why I can appreciate the scene itself, because there has to be sacrifices, or there has to be ramifications for the actions you take. If you're just going to be the neighborhood Spider-Man and you're just getting away with everything and nothing really has any circumstances, then it's like it makes it even less like easy to get into. But the fact that there is something that actually was taken away from him. And I mean, it's a trope from Spider-Man with the Uncle Ben stuff, and this is just the equivalent of it. Peter, Peter. I knew when she went down, I knew that she was gonna say that inspirational speech. I didn't expect it to be with great power comes great responsibility, but I knew if she would have said that, it had that in the back of my mind. Please don't say it. Please don't say it. I say the equivalent. Say a synonym. Coming. Say something, because I knew it was coming. I just didn't want those words. I wanted them said in a different way, because I understood that that's what the scene was for.
Did you want it like the weird way that what's his face said it in Amazing Spider-Man? He's like, it was all this weird, like essentially walking around saying with great power. What was it? Martin Sheen. He's like, with power comes a certain respectability of the. I'm like, oh come on, just say it, Uncle Ben. This is fine. We're down now.
Yeah, you are Uncle Ben. So, but But yeah, I wanted maybe not that much of a workaround, but something, you know, you could have said the same thing, just saying it differently.
Yeah, the spirit of it. You know what I'm saying?
But they wanted it,
and the way she said it too, it didn't feel right. You know,
it doesn't.
With great power, there must also really just say with great power, great responsibility. Say like a normal person would, like a comic book would say it.
Yeah, she said it verbatim. It's like what's her
people dropped that specific line for a reason because it doesn't feel natural.
Well, yeah, I think like especially from the way what's her face plays Aunt May.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't work.
She doesn't seem like she's gonna be Marissa Tomei. I think that she doesn't seem like
on Bay, by the way, that's what I call her. You know.
She doesn't seem like the type of person to say something so prolific. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
she should be like, "Hey, Peter, get your shit together."
Yeah, that should be that. I mean, like, as a New Yorker, I think she played a good New York parent. Like the way she acted, like because she's from New York, you feel it. But at the same time, then that's like all of a sudden saying, you know, something like Shakespeare, like popping up with some Shakespeare out of something. She could have just like, with great power comes great responsibility. Bam. Like that. She could have just said
exactly. That. Yeah, not and there must. It's funny because, you know, Stan Lee wrote that. He's a New Yorker too. But you know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, he's a writer.
From a different he's a writer. He's gonna get fancy. Yeah,
Marissa Tomei or Aunt May is not a writer. She's just a lady that lives in an apartment B. Yeah, that's who she is.
No, you're right.
Like it did feel a little odd that she would say something like that because she doesn't seem like she's the type of person to say something so prolific. It would at least with just dropping just there must be.
There must be. Just get rid of that. Just say with
great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, that I agree with
because that. I think her other line, the other line that she says actually fits the New Yorkerness of her. What was it? We do what we need to, or something like that. Yeah. I think that, but you notice that's the words that's on her grave. It's not the great power comes great responsibility. It's the we do what we need to, or do what you know. I think that. Yeah. You know, I also think bring up the side.
Let Dana go, man.
I mean, I was still going, but
well, it's a delay. It's a delay.
Continue.
Yeah, because she was trying to get in for like 5 minutes.
So, but I was gonna say, like, the one thing I find a little, interesting now about the way Aunt May is portrayed is that before she was sort of like this curmudgeonly woman that you kind of didn't like, but now she's all for every single incarnation of her. She's always been this like angel of mercy, where now she runs a food pantry. She runs or she's part of volunteers at times at a homeless shelter or something like that, and all this. Before, old Aunt May wouldn't have never done that. She'd be like, "Oh, those homeless people! What are they doing here? They scare me."
Yeah, that's right.
So, since we're kind of jumping around, I thought that Aunt May, the thing is, she was the connective tissue to all of the Peter Parkers, I feel. And I feel that you have to have that death that really impacts Peter Parker, that makes him want to change and to make him realize how completely reckless and kind of selfish he's been acting. And with this death, I feel it gives him a purpose to want to stop people that's evil. I don't know how to properly explain it, but it kind of gives him a reason to be the Spider-Man we know of. Before, as you guys were saying, he was fighting everyone else's battles and fighting everyone else's villains. He was, just hanging along and listening to what Tony Stark said and listening to what the other Avengers, and including Happy. He was following Happy, who, if you even looked at it, Happy kind of felt like he was his boy, in the sense that, I have to take the place of what Iron Man was doing. So I really like the fact that she died. I like the fact that they use great power comes great responsibility, because that is the connective thread that all of the Peters experience. And it'll show later on when they all come together, it creates this brotherhood of shared tragedy. And so for me, I thought it was really great. And kind of going back to the villains, we'll get to that a little bit later. I do believe that there was an actual villain in the movie, and it wasn't necessarily Green Goblin per se, even though he got, really beaten up on, kind of like a Batman situation. But that's just kind of my feelings on Aunt May. So does anybody else want to touch upon Aunt May that didn't get a chance to speak?
Yeah, I'm going to say this about Aunt May. And again, you want to talk about the connective tissue of this movie for me, right? Again, she's there, to kind of spur Peter on, right? But how do we get to that point? She's killed by one of the other Spider-Man's villains from the other movie. So you can't let that go either. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, how does Peter Parker going to learn something? Because one of these previous villains from his other movie that came out 20 years ago kills his aunt now. It didn't work for me either. All my problems with this movie stem from the fact that it's so dependent on everything else. I know I sound like a broken record, but there is no instance of this movie where I could go, oh, that's great, without me going, oh, yeah, because you're using the other movies as a crutch. So yeah, that didn't work for me either. And the whole Aunt May thing was so contrived too. You saw it coming a mile away, her death, and then like Carlos said, the line delivery, it didn't work either. So this big emotional scene, I'm just like, it fell flat. They ain't have to quote you. I felt nothing. So it's just like, all right, really, all right.
I'm with Dana for the most part. I just had an issue with the line. It's sort of like when Talia,
she's killed by this other villain from the other Spider-Man. It's like, really?
Yeah, but I like the fact that and regardless of that, I felt that I liked it that she was the one trying to help him. It was her decision at the end of the day to help what's his name, Norman Osborn. It was her decision. She's the one that egged on Peter to be like, no, let's. She's suffering through the ramifications of her actions as well. Not only Peter's actions. We like to put the whole thing on Peter. It's on May that egged on Peter to leave these people here and help them. So she's going through. Yeah. That's her. At the end of the day, that's her sacrifice. I just didn't like the line because I felt like it could have been delivered much better and being less cheesy, because it was a really natural. Emotional. Yeah, exactly. I felt like it could have been more natural.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, just going to say that, it's her, the ramification of her trying to help out villains from these other movies.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I understand that's sort of a thing.
I have a question.
Is it a controversial one?
No. I just there seems like there's a scene missing. Why did they leave Lizard in the van?
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I think that was
so you could take the octopus armed guy into the apartment. Yeah.
I understand why they left him, because he's a big. No, here's the thing: you can't walk up a giant monster up the stairs, right? But Chris, I agree with you.
Spider-Man walked up the stairs, and so did Dr. Octopus.
Yeah, you are right about this. I do with fucking robot arms and shit.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: I understand why they left him behind, but I agree with you. They could have at least had a scene. Yo, stay here. They didn't have that because when the van was moving, I was like, why is that? What's in there?
Oh, I figured.
I had no idea. So then when the show was like, oh, okay, they could have at least had a little scene. Like,
because
you stay there.
If you're gonna do the thing where he's using the Stark magic machine to make cures for everybody,
God,
he's like, oh, I can, he fixed Dr. Octopus's like brain chip, and he was doing Osborn, and it's like, oh, here's the anti-lizard fucking I don't know cure.
Serum. Yeah.
Which apparently you can also fabricate in a high school chemistry lab.
Yes.
Because New York high schools are stocked with everything.
They're very well funded, right?
Yeah.
Hey man, all you need is a Bunsen burner and and some chemicals.
That's right. Yeah.
Or Andrew Garfield could go like, hey, wait, I gotta go down into the train station to the secret lab that's underneath the train station. Yeah. That's how he fabricated that shit.
That's right.
But by the way, I wanted to go back to something Dana mentioned earlier, of why I actually, and going back to Aunt May, I felt like this was necessary in a lot of ways, because we started off with Spider-Man in Captain America: Civil War, and he's just a kid. All of these movies, they make it a point. It's like, hey kid, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, they treat him as a kid. He's in high school, when Iron Man is, when he's dying with Iron Man on his shoulders, and it's like, like he acts like a kid, and he's trying to, he has to become a man. And I felt like this is they need to make that transition, and I felt like they did a good job in this movie to, you know, have a good catalyst. Obviously, it's a catalyst that it's a trope with all the Spider-Man movies and with all the Spider-Man stories that whenever they get rebooted. But I like that this became the trope for him to become a man on the latter half of him becoming Spider-Man, not just as he is becoming Spider-Man in his origin story, because we already know what type of person he is now, and now we know like how his character development can go forward with tragedy. So I really enjoyed the way that they made that. And then again, how it's gonna work out in the latter movies, no clue.
Yeah,
but that's up to Kevin Feige and MCU.
Well, yeah,
peoples.
supposedly the Marvel is still handling those movies, but
Yeah.
they're not. But I'm guessing that they're distancing themselves from the greater Marvel universe films. Yeah, I mean, again, I did one thing I did like about I did like that despite the you know, because again, we could have had hit the MacGuffin button and essentially wiped all the other, you know, bad guys out of the movie, but I did like the fact that it's like that he did want to help them, and which is a very sort of Spider-Man sort of thing. And I also did feel that because we all knew the Goblin was not cured, obviously, because he's kooky, but I did like the aspect where he essentially took that, you know, peaked Spider-Man's, you know, science mind, and they sort of worked together to sort of figure out a little bit how to get this stuff going. And then also him just changing, because you knew that was always going to be there. And then their fight, I think, in that house, like that place, felt pretty brutal. Like he looked like he definitely felt like he got his ass whipped by Goblin. Like Goblin was just slamming him through the ground.
They were going through the building.
They were going through the building. I'm like, oh, this is like here's the thing. Like even in the original Spider-Man film, you never really got an idea of how legitimately strong Goblin was. You know, they weren't really flying through buildings too much, like blowing through walls. Maybe at the last fight of the movie, you know, they were doing a little bit of that, but yeah, it felt pretty brutal the way he's just getting his ass whipped by fucking Willem Dafoe as the Goblin.
And I don't know if I'm the only one, but I actually really enjoyed the scene that led up to that, where his Spidey senses are going crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, everybody's like looking at him like, hey, what's going on? He's like, something's about to happen.
Yeah. And then Electrode had his, you know, trepidations of wearing that thing that he was at in his you know, in his heart, and I really enjoyed that whole scene. But yeah, I mean, going back to Chris, there's all these movies have their MacGuffins. They had that one MacGuffin in that scene where it was the Tony Stark do-it-all machine.
It was
the Stark magic machine just opens and can fabricate anything.
Yeah. I mean, again, that was always my biggest problem with a lot of the Tony Stark tech. It's just like it's much magic as Doctor Strange, where it's like boop boop boop. Hey, it's there. It's a new suit.
Like his suit instantly took over Dr. Octopus's arms when he got the nanotech on him. He's like, "Ooh, nanotechnology!" It took over. Stark's tech took his arms over. That he basically was disabled for the movie, right? And Spider-Man could remote control him.
You know, back early on, there was originally what was meant. They were actually going to try to connect the Maguire Spider-Man movies to the rest of the Marvel universe, and they were going to use Dr. Octopus at the time to do that. Where that some of the technology that he had something to do with the next Iron Man film, but it never happened. It's interesting. I mean, he seemed to. He's like, oh look, nanotechnology, huh? Very interesting.
So then kind of moving on from that, we kind of, for me, I felt that one of the main bad guys was just a human who we've seen previously in probably the role of an Alex Jones situation.
Here's a Spider-Man.
Was he set out and purposely made, you could say, fake news about Peter Parker and him being the actual villain, and by him going downstairs and waiting at the building and Lizard freaking out, it caused everything else to kind of go into a chaotic moment. and he was just there to get the footage. He didn't really care about anything. So my question is, how did you guys feel about J.J. Jameson? And also, how come it seems like he's the only one he seems to be the same JJ from the previous world? Am I the only one who got that, or are we supposed to think he's different?
Well, no, I mean,
he's just a variant.
He just obviously he's just a variant. He's, you know, to be honest, if they really wanted to go down this road and screw with everybody, they could have just said, hey, no, none of these guys are from an alternate universe. All of them just exist in this version of the world. You know, Dr. Octopus actually existed, all of these guys, and they were the ones that you remember. They're just slightly different. And I just feel like with just Jameson, it's nothing to it. It's more of a nostalgia pop. It's more of a nostalgia pop from the previous from the last movie. And I know everybody just lost their mind at the end of seeing him like, hey, it's a Spider-Man. You know, I didn't have a real issue with him. I mean, I like
it's one of the few things of this movie I did like, because it's him, you know, J.K. Richard. So I like him. I did like how he started as a content creator, influencer, and then way, you know, it's like he got more ad revenue through whatever YouTube channel using. Then he upped his like production.
Yeah, he got more of a production going.
So yeah, so it's like by the end, he was still a content creator by the end. It's just he had more high production value, but he had the green screen he got from Elgato and shit in the beginning.
Yeah, you know? he was in his underwear on the, you know, underneath the.
Yeah. So that was fun. Yeah, no, I had no problem with that. Yeah, that was good. It's J.K. Simmons. That guy's awesome. You know,
again, the strength of bringing back the strength of bringing back a really good actor to fill in a role that ultimately isn't that much of the movie, but you feel his presence throughout the film all the time. Like you always hear his voice. He may not even be on screen, but you still feel his presence. And I feel like that is the strength of the sad part of the, you know, bringing back all these sort of older actors, because the thing is that you actually don't need very much screen time with them, because they just their strength as actors essentially fill in the blanks.
Yeah. By the way, real quick, I just thought about this because like we kind of saw the same thing happen with M, right, from James Bond. Like it was the same woman in the whatchamacallit movies, the Brosnan movies, right?
Yes.
And then for Granny Craig, like she's good, keep her going. It's so I kind of see it as the same. It's like, hey, this J.K. Simmons guy is awesome. Just keep it going.
Just keep it going.
You know? So yeah, I mean, with that.
It's even when all the multiverse stuff doesn't make sense, it's like all of these universes are. It's like there's slight variations and there's major variations, and I feel like the whole purpose of this is the J. Jonah Jameson person is a slight variation between some of the universes.
It'd be, you know, though I did really want a sequence with the two with the Maguire Spider-Man
meeting
guys.
Jameson.
Yeah, no, essentially they're going like Jameson.
Oh yeah, because he was his boss. Yeah,
you know, like something like that. Because maybe not Maguire Spider-Man or even Octopus or friggin' Goblin being like, Jameson? What?
But they obviously wouldn't know each other, you know.
They wouldn't know each other, but they're just like,
or Jameson wouldn't know him, you know.
No, Jameson wouldn't, but like they would
know who he is.
They would know who he is because he essentially sounds the same. The only difference is he's
20
years older,
exactly.
and he doesn't have the hair anymore.
By the way, we need to give a quick shout out to Richard Bailey Jr., who's joining us right now.
Mr. Richard. Yes, he is joining us. Mr. Richard, we talked about the plot, the villains, Aunt May, her dying. Was there anything you wanted to add? How did you feel about the movie overall?
First and foremost, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, I must apologize. There is a winter advisory here in Boston. So, it took me a while to return. I will just say this. I did enjoy the movie. There were some plot holes that I'm sure that y'all have already discussed. But overall, I would say it was a good movie. Now, I would not say it's the best MCU movie, because I've seen a lot of people online saying that.
They're tripping.
Yeah.
I don't know what movie they watched, but it was entertaining. I will say, because Dana, you brought up Aunt May's death. I would have preferred to see Aunt May impaled the same way that we saw Green Goblin impaled. Because when she, in that particular scene, it's like, I knew she was going to die, but they kind of dragged that a little bit.
It's interesting because I almost did get that feeling from it. Like it almost like, oh my God, he's gonna kill her the way he killed him. But it was just, she just sort of bounced off of it.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, and I will give a shout out to my brother very quickly because we had this discussion earlier today. Now, speaking of Green Goblin, we already know, if you've seen the first 3 Spider-Man movies that Tobey Maguire was in, you know that his son became, basically his son became a villain after his father died. So I found it interesting in the movie how Peter Parker mentions the son, but yet I was a little confused of the timeline because Green Goblin, I'm assuming that that's the Green Goblin from the first movie. So his son did not die. See, I was a little confused with that.
Well, it seems like, at least from what I've surmised, is that they were essentially pulled out of their realities the moment they found out that Spider-Man was Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
By the way, they actually got pulled out the moment they were about to kill Spider-Man. Remember, they said like I had my hands on his throat, and suddenly I was
no,
gone.
it was the moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I don't know. I don't think. No, because I don't remember Goblin saying anything about having him there. I think he got it after he figured it out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's that, and Dana, because remember, Doc Ock wasn't a bad guy when he died. Like he was saving people.
Right.
Yeah. Doc Ock specifically was the one that's like, I had my,
so he was still,
I was killing him.
At that moment, he was still evil, and that's to essentially stop him from being evil. He pulled his mask and was like, "Oh, Peter Parker, what are you doing here?" So I think for Goblin, when he figured it out, it was at the Thanksgiving table. That's when he figured out that Spider-Man, Peter Parker wanted to say, where he saw the little cut on his arm and all that stuff. So I think it's that moment beforehand, and then. Again, when did Electro find out? We don't know.
I don't remember him.
He never pulled his mask off and said, "Hey, Electro, it's me."
Well, he didn't because remember, Electro was like, "Yo, I thought you were a brother." You know?
He didn't know it was him. Like he had his mask off at the.
It was when he was about to die. Because he was like, he was electrocuted. He was like, yeah,
no,
and then
it was all the way the spell works. It's all the people that knew the identity of Peter Parker being Spider-Man. So in other words, did Electro find out later what happened? Because he never figured it out.
Yeah,
and Sandman saw Spider-Man at the end of the movie, saw Peter Parker and Spider-Man at the end of the movie, so he knew that. So everybody else is sort of covered except for Electro. Again, it could just be Electro from another alternate universe. Because even Lizard said something, was like, "Hey, wait, you're kind of weird. You don't, I remember you used to have glasses and a comb over and all that."
That's true. Any other plot holes you wanted to bring up, Mr. Bailey?
Well, no, I just want to make a comment, Dana, because I did see your review. It's a good spoiler-free review, so I would encourage people to check it out if they haven't. But you said that Electro had the joke about thinking that Spider-Man was black. Yeah. I must admit, I was very triggered with that comment because then I wonder, okay, where the hell is Miles Morales at?
Yeah, Rich, I'm glad you mentioned that because when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see Miles this movie, but we never got him.
Yeah. By the way, I want to issue a quick apology to some of the people that thought Miles Morales was in this movie based on that tweet because we were at that premiere, Manny. They had the Puerto Rican band, so I tweeted out. People were like, "Oh shit, that's the clue. He's in this. Why else would they have this Puerto Rican band?" No. That was not the case.
No, man, it's
the guy who organizes Puerto Rican.
Yeah, and Edgardo is very for Puerto Rican, and originally what that event was going to be was going to be an art show, and then to feature Puerto Rican artists as well as this Puerto Rican group, but dance troupe. But unfortunately, that never happened. But that's the angle that he usually takes whenever he does these sorts of events.
Yeah, but there were a few people like, "Oh shit, he confirmed it. He confirmed it. Miles Morales is in this." Like,
well, I mean, here's the funny part, like, because I was giving away prints at that show. and it was the PS4 Spider-Man. And then Tony heard from one of the guys like, "Yo, man, why are we getting PS4 Spider-Man? Does that mean he's in this movie?"
Yeah, we were tricking people, man. But
that's the people.
Yeah, I guess you know, Dane, I'm pretty sure you have this already notes, but you know, we should bring up the interactions between the Spider-Man.
Well, yeah, I was gonna get to that point. I was just trying to like go through the movie thing. So now basically what we know is we have the Spider people. They all came in through Ned. Ned now has the ability to basically be a sorcerer.
Oh, I had a problem with that.
Yeah, me too. That was dumb.
I'm gonna object that he takes Doctor Strange's ring and instantly figures out how to open portals. Where they made a point in Doctor Strange's movie, it took him forever just to figure that out when he was training, like how difficult it was to use the sling ring and open a portal, and then just accidentally does it. By the way, he just gestures and it's like, oh, you know. And they had that throwaway line, was like, oh, my grandmother told me our family has a touch of magic or something. I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah,
all of a sudden you are attuned to magic. Okay,
magic.
Well,
I mean, I did like the little like thing with Doctor Strange where he was just like, wait, you did it? It's like, all right. But yeah, it was kind of funny where he just accidentally figures out what makes the sling ring.
That was another contrivance. I'm sorry. That was like really
the convenience. It's the convenience. It's the MacGuffin sling ring, because it literally, you ask it for what you want and then all of a sudden, boop, oh, hey, get a Peter Parker.
Yeah.
So can I make a quick comment?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know.
I enjoyed the battle between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, but I did not like how they used Doctor Strange in this movie at all.
Ooh.
Because just like y'all said, that the whole thing with the how of course we saw that he wasn't able to use his ring, that they had the whole thing where he was trapped in the Mirrorverse for the entirety of the film.
Yeah, that was dumb.
And then he comes back at the end and he helps out. Yeah, I didn't like that, because that kind of, to me, said that Marvel said, yes, we have a deal with Sony for Spider-Man, but we're going to let them do what they want to do with Spider-Man. We don't want Doctor Strange to have too much involvement in this movie, because that's our character.
But the thing is that if Doctor Strange was in the movie, he could have literally captured all those guys on himself. I mentioned this.
Well, that's why they had to get rid of him.
They had to get rid of him, because if you mentioned, like I mentioned it earlier, where it was like he literally got Dr. Octopus instantly, and then he got the Lizard. Like he was all beat up, and he got the Lizard. So it's like, okay, so he could have did all this shit on his own. He would instantly MacGuffin the whole movie, and then that wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have gotten a lot of this. So that fight and putting him, essentially sidelining him for the whole movie, kind of had to happen, because in order to get the rest of the things to happen.
That makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Manny. I like the fact that a byproduct of that was the Spider-Man Doctor Strange fight, which I felt like was one of the best parts of the movie. But I also, and going back to another thing that was mentioned, I do agree with Tony and Chris with the net stuff. It's like, come on, it's you know,
it's just like
it reminded me of you know, the CW show Flash, when everyone all of fucking what's his name, Flash's friends start getting superpowers. I'm like, all right, man, that's enough.
Yeah, everybody's in power.
It just reminded me of like episode 1, where essentially Anakin accidentally blows up the Trade Federation ship. It's like that. It's like, hey, let's try a spin move. Yeah, that's cool.
No, this is flying.
This is Carmitage magic.
Yeah, I didn't like that part either.
But it got Garfield in the movie.
We got Garfield. We got the Andrew, the other two. I can't remember their names.
Tobey Maguire.
We got Tobey Maguire. We got Andrew Garfield. They had their spidey senses, and they automatically knew what was happening. They wasn't confused. They seemed to know, and they was actually looking for Tom Holland. And so this is when we have them trying to go and help everyone without any kind of explanation needed. And you can see that they kind of created a band of brotherhoods, because remember, this was after Aunt May had died. Tom Holland is on the roof. He is extremely sad. At this point, he's crying his eyes out, and they come in just at the right time to say, like, we're here for you. We understand what you've been through. So let's just talk about the Spider People. Did you like, did you not like performances, anything?
Yeah, I'll start because I was saying this earlier. Like, I feel that I actually liked Garfield in this. I didn't like him in his other movies. I felt he was too broody, too moody. I didn't like that. This one, he was actually cracking jokes, which is something Spider-Man's supposed to do. Although I will say, that's another thing I don't know if we're going to get to, because that's just endemic of every Marvel movie. The abundance of jokes, like something heavy happens, and all of a sudden, here's the joke. We're going to just toss over. But he was good. I kind of was intrigued by the fact that he's like, I stopped pulling my punches at one time. Like, oh, what were you doing, bruh? And it seemed, they didn't overtly say this, but it seemed to him, to me, that he's like, yeah, I'm not Peter Parker anymore. I'm just Spider-Man the whole time now. Like, I can't live a normal life. I got that sense from him. So I liked him. He was, again, I was surprised. I didn't like his movies. But it goes with what Carlos said. It's like, hey, you put him in a good Spider-Man movie, then we're something. Despite my problems with this movie, it was not terrible. It's just, it had things I personally don't like, but it was the best of the Holland movies for sure. It was certainly better than any of the Andrew Garfield movies. So it was good to actually see him do his thing. With Tobey Maguire doing so price, that dude was awesome to begin with. So you knew he was going to give you gold. Garfield was the only one I was like, I don't know about this cat. But no, he was good. He was good. I liked him.
I also like that they sort of played, because they also played to the different strengths of these sorts of characters. Because we always remember that Garfield was a really good was a really good in suit. Like,
in suit.
Was, so now it's like he's, and then like you had like for Maguire, he was a little bit more, not as funny, but a little bit more wounded, feeling. And at least for the character, he felt like he had grown up, because obviously he's 20 years older than than he was before. So he felt like the senior Spider-Man, but very reserved, sort of Spider-Man, which was kind of cool. You have like this, it's kind of this guy, this or that, and then that I did like their interactions. And then I also like that Dana touched on this, was like, they were surprised about the world. They were like, he's like, wait a minute, alternate universes, like they're thinking logically about what this all means, where they are. Things aren't the same.
And that also culminates in that little lab scene, even though it was ridiculous that they're in a high school lab. It's like they all know what they're doing. They're all scientists and shit. And even Zendaya was like, hey, there's three of you, because it was a kind of interesting situation. And then also they had that scene later on in the movie where Garfield gets his redemption arc, because remember, he killed Gwen Stacy, right? Because he didn't catch her correctly. So this one, he knew, was like, oh, this is the same situation. I know what to do now, So that was pretty cool,
Also, like they kind of make fun of each other a little bit. With, Garfield called him. It's like, are you going to dress like a cool youth pastor to save the day, or do you actually have a Spider-Man outfit?
He was the only one not wearing a Spider-Man outfit.
And then he was like, yeah, bro.
He's like, right here, bro.
Well, the thing about it is that the one thing that they touch upon and don't fully overtly touch upon is that Spider-Man, Maguire Spider-Man has weird fucking shit on his
on his wrist,
and he always has to wear long sleeves to cover up his
I like the comments on the organic webs. They're like, that comes out of you.
Does it come out anywhere else?
It doesn't come out anywhere else.
And he's like
one of them got webbed up by it. He's like, ew.
Yeah, he's like,
I really always. I'm sorry, Carlos. Just real quick. That's something that they've never addressed really in the Tobey Maguire, because I'm like, does he have to eat a lot? Like, they keep up that webbing. Like, what if he goes like a week without eating or whatever? It's like he's going to be like dry or whatever.
Well, they do mention in the movies, like, like, does he ever have a blockage? He's like, yeah, I kind of did have that because I was having an existential crisis. Remember where he was in the second Spider-Man movie? He was losing his powers.
He loses powers.
He fell down and stuff, and
like he just had to talk to Uncle Ben in the astral world or whatever. whatever the hell that
point.
was, and then it fixed it.
Yeah.
I agree with what Tony mentioned about Andrew Garfield. I was really happy to see him in this movie because I felt like he had a better role. It's weird with the Spider-Man movies. I felt like Andrew Garfield was the better Spider-Man because I felt like his character when he had the suit on, the way he quipped the jokes and stuff, I felt like that was done better than the other ones. I always felt like Tobey Maguire was the best Peter Parker because I always felt like he was, not only did he look like a nerd, but he was really reserved and kind of calming. He had like a calming nature to him that I really liked about his character. And I felt like Tom Holland was like the best like combination of both. He wasn't like the best one of each, but he was a really good combination of both. And I felt like it was done really well with the whole Aunt May scene because and Tony mentioned there's always all these jokes, but I felt like that scene didn't require jokes and it didn't have it. And I was really happy that they didn't make it sort of, hey, this dude lost his aunt. Let's do a joke to levity up the atmosphere. No, they didn't do that. They've all gone through it and they did a great job, showing their, personalities. And like it was mentioned that the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, he's been going through shit. I mean, the last thing we saw him was he lost his girl. So he's probably, been dealing with that part, for a while now.
He became the dark
Well, you gotta remember, he said he stopped pulling his punches. So I'm gonna assume he's been killing motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They did a great job showing like the trauma from when he caught Zendaya. You saw him physically break down.
Yeah.
So he never really got the mental, like he's all alone. No one to really talk to help him through that. So I liked how they did it. It was a nice touch. Richard, you've been silent.
Yeah, I actually agree with a lot that has been said. I think they handled the connection of all three of these characters very well. As you mentioned, the trauma that they've all dealt with, because they all felt the consequences of having gone against villains that died. And I'm glad that they gave you that context. Even when Peter had his interaction with Doc Ock and they had a peaceful interaction because now Doc Ock is cured, that was great to see. And of course, what I love especially is, a lot of comedy between them. The joke about when Tom Holland said, "Oh yeah, I've been a part of the Avengers," and Tobey Maguire said, "That's cool. What are the Avengers?" That was fantastic. And I also will say that I really like how they made use of that, because the whole reason why he was a part of the Avengers was to basically help them out and become a part of the team. And he utilized that to help them work together to take out the villain. So yeah, they did an excellent job as far as how they made them all interact and putting them together, for sure.
If we're jumping Spider-Man scenes, I just want to mention this before I forget. Probably the best part of the movie for me is when at the very end when he's hugging both of them and he says thank you. I'm like, that got to my heartstrings, man, because I was like, it's like, because it's a symbolic thing. It's like, he's thanking them for doing what they did before him and paving the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the whole the back sequence. Essentially, like, we're making fun of Tobey Maguire's back again.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's right.
He's like, "Oh, why are you doing that?" I was like, "Oh man, my back." I thought that was fun. Again, some
of that stuff was a little corny though. Like when you're like, no, you're amazing. I'm like, oh, are we really doing this right now, dude? Really? Yeah, I wasn't feeling that part.
Yeah, that was pretty corny.
I mean, that one was
the part with the back was stupid too.
That was a little. I felt like the amazing thing was just like, that was a little. Yeah, all right, that's a little on the nose. The back thing, I was like, all right, we got to get another dig on Tom Maguire's back again because he fell off a horse on Seabiscuit. So. Yeah, I thought it was a fun little moment. What's funny? Those moments sort of felt like they were ad-libbed, like they were just letting them go on whatever topic there was, whatever they were given. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it just felt like it didn't feel like written. It kind of felt like a little bit like the way the original Iron Man felt, where they're sort of just, okay, this is what the scene is. now go. And he's like, oh well, I don't go into how much detail, how much these things work. I mean, it's like asking how breathing works. It's just I have it. Which obviously even in the movie it just doesn't make any sense. The original one, I remember Tony years ago was like, organic webs.
Yeah, that was I always hated the organic webs.
Yeah,
always hated that shit.
I think Ultimate Spider-Man had organic webs.
He built his own stuff. It was an idea that James Cameron came up with, and
it was left over from the James Cameron version of the movies. Yeah. He could have made a James Cameron joke about that.
There was a point in the Marvel comics, right? The actual core comics where he did have organic webs, but they retconned.
They just got rid of it. But yeah.
So one of my other questions is that when we go with the spell thing later on, remember he changes the spell where everyone will forget who he is completely, because the other two Spider-Men basically just met him. Do you feel that maybe down the line Sony or Marvel could touch upon it and them meeting again? The three,
if they run out of ideas, yeah.
Yeah, if they,
actually, they already said they're open to the idea of bringing those guys back. They officially said they're open to the idea of bringing those guys back. So there's your answer. Yes.
I mean, again, like it'd be interesting to see a older Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. It'd be nice, but I mean, at the same time, it's like now we're really watering down the brand. Like now we not only have the Holland Spider-Man, but now we have all the other ones. Yes. No. But
I hope.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rich.
Oh no, I just was going to say I have a quick question. I was going to ask.
Is it a controversial one?
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be too controversial since it was addressed in the movie.
Oh.
Do y'all think that they will, if they run out of ideas, will they explore the idea of Ned becoming a villain? Because I thought it was an interesting interaction he had with Tom Holland, where he said, "Oh yeah, I will never turn on you," and all this other stuff, and it was an awkward silence.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean
Rich? Yeah. Have you seen that character in real life? Like, or that person in real life?
Well,
like he doesn't have the long hair. He's bald, and I'm like, yo, he looks like the way he looks. I'm like, he can make a villain.
I thought Carlos was going to say he looks like the Hobgoblin.
That's who Ned Leeds is in the comics.
Yeah,
Ned Leeds is the Hobgoblin. So that's why when he said that, it's like, oh yeah, like I'll never turn on you. It's like, and me and Tony laughed because we knew that Ned is the Hobgoblin.
Yeah, I know that too. And he's like, "Oh, I'll never turn on you." I'm like, I know who you are.
I mean, now Ned can become a villain because
he doesn't know him. They don't have a connection.
Yeah.
I'm looking up his name because I don't know. It's Jacob.
So kind of
Jacob Batalon.
Yeah, he's bald headed. He lost a whole bunch of weight too. So he's not.
He's not.
Oh no, he may be Filipino.
No, he's Filipino. That was his mom.
Yeah, that's our people. You already know. They're our cousins, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, he does look like a villain. Oh shit.
He does. Like it's the hair that makes him look like a kid and like kind of innocent. But if he without the hair, he's like he looks tough.
Skinnier, and he is skinnier too. Shit.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I like that guy. He's a good actor. I like that guy.
So kind of because no one knows who Spider-Man is or Peter Parker is in this universe, that opens the doors to a lot of different possibilities. What would you guys like to see happen? Because we don't know where this is going.
All right.
We know there's a 4.
We already touched on this, but I'm going to get on it. I'm pretty sure I'm speaking to a lot of people. That's my favorite part of this movie, that this cleans the entire slate. No more Star Tech, no more Secret Identity, none of that. It's just Spider-Man doing his thing. So even though I feel this movie was heavily contrived, that'll be a good thing if we eventually get an actual Spider-Man movie trilogy. That's just Spider-Man. Yes, it's still in the MCU. We're still going to have, Avengers in the background somewhere or whatever. That's fine. But his own movie. So I think that's good. Just the fact that you saw him in his costume, and it looked great, by the way, even though
it looked really good. Yeah.
It looked really fucking dope. And then reestablish our relationship with what's her name? Is Michelle Jane Watson or something like that. It's not Mary Jane,
Yeah.
right? That's good. We side by side. Then with
Yeah.
Ned, like we talked about, get him as the Hobgoblin. So there's opportunities there. So that does excite me because I do like Tom Holland. I think he's a good actor. I enjoyed. I don't think here's the thing. I have issues with every version of the live action Spider-Mans, but I'm with Carlos that he does bring the best of both worlds to an extent, right? So I do want to see him keep doing his thing, and I know he's open to keep doing it. Brings Zendaya back; she's actually pretty good, and then just keep that going. So I'm with that. I like that. It's a fresh start because we never had a proper Spider-Man. It was always like Tony Stark and Spider-Man. It always felt like that.
Nick Fury and Spider-Man.
Nick Fury and
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Yeah. And this one, it's just like, hey, remember all these other movies, So yeah, so that is good. I am excited about that. And like Chris said, this is the best Phase 4 MCU movie. That's not saying a lot because Phase 4 has been trash, but it is. It's like despite how because again, I cannot let go of how contrived this whole thing, how forced it all felt. But at least it didn't anger me like the other MCU shit I've seen. It's just I kind of just left like, oh, really, they could have done that better. But I see what they were trying to go for, and I could appreciate that. But it wasn't like Black Widow slogging through that shit, or fucking Loki, or the disappointment of the Falcon show that I liked initially until they fucked it up, So, and then Eternals, haven't seen it. I will see it. It's gonna be fucking trash. I already know it's gonna be bullshit, And then Shang-Chi, I almost forgot about Shang-Chi. That's how much of an impact it left on me. I already forgot the movie. I just remember it had CG, too much CG, But yeah, so I'm hopeful for the future of Tom Holland's Spider-Man for sure.
And also you bring up a good point with everyone's forgotten about him, so they're kind of and sort of the larger narrative that was discussed at the beginning of this, how maybe maybe Sony and the MCU are kind of falling apart a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's why they did the whole Venom, the symbiote kind of thing lurking around, because they probably want to do a Venom with this universe. Also, we still have yet to tackle on Miles Morales in this universe.
That's going to happen eventually. I guarantee you that. I'm
pretty sure that'll happen in the next movie.
They touched upon it in other movies.
They have to. They have to because Tom Holland is not going to be there forever. He's getting too. He's Nathan Drake now.
Yeah.
You did have what's his face, Gambino showing up in
Childish Gambino.
Childish Gambino showing up in the previous movie. You can literally put the Prowler in the movie.
Well, he'll make a great Prowler. Yeah, because at first people were saying that he would have been Miles, but I'm like, nah, he's too old. He's like almost 40.
Too old, yeah. The thing with Holland is you could keep him being like a teenager for a long time. That guy's going to look like that for a long time. I guarantee you that. He's like Michael J. Fox in that respect,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He always looks.
But that also means he's never going to look older as Nathan Drake. He like people go, oh, he's just has to get older. He's like, dude, the guy's like 25. He's not gonna look any older than that,
Yeah.
He's just one of those faces, man. Anyway.
Any other people? Mr. Richard, you want to jump in here? Thoughts for what you want for the continued MCU?
Well, I believe y'all have already touched on it. I guess we're going to get Venom based on that mid-credit scene to some effect. I want to see that. I believe that Kraven the Hunter, a possibility. The Sinister Six. We know that the Morbius movie is coming out in January, and you know that what's his name? Vulture is actually in that movie, so I'm assuming that at some point they're going to try to do a crossover with that character too.
And it crosses over. They announced it's going to cross over.
Say what?
They announced it's going to cross over. Morbius is going to actually feature Venom in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense? So Morbius is in Tom Holland's Spider-Man's universe because of his connection to Michael Keaton's Vulture, but Tom Hardy isn't, based on the mid-credit scene.
That was very.
But
confusing.
he's in the what? That doesn't make any sense.
None.
That was confusing. Miss Dana Abercrombie, do you have an explanation for this?
I don't have any explanations for nothing. No one explains anything to me. No, I know that they said, well,
yeah, Dana, we didn't get the memo either, so don't feel bad.
Okay, I don't know. It's weird, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know.
So that was everyone got to speak. Oh, sorry.
I didn't say nothing.
Oh, go ahead, Manny. Well, yeah, what do you want for the Future Spider-Man?
Well, again, like, now he's done with being the dependent Spider-Man, and now he can actually become his own Spider-Man and have his own, finally have his own villains instead of inherited villains from other franchises, you know, or other versions of the franchise. Hopefully, you know, we get to see him become, like, you know, a full-on character and having to fully solve a problem on his own instead of having to use the crutches of other characters, you know, other more adult characters. So we'll see. I mean, maybe the next movie will be him in college. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, are they going to go down the line of the Sinister Six? I mean, does that mean we're going to see, like, how do you even develop that? Like, if you're going to do the Sinister Six, he kind of already did the Sinister Six in this one, you know, then now we're going down the road of trying to establish the other 6 villains from the movies. So we'll see. And maybe they might just go down, you know, the road of us, you know, try to look through his rogue gallery of characters they haven't done yet. They, you know, Richard said that, you know, Craven, you could probably do Craven, you know, maybe the Catalyst, maybe, you know, all this, because remember, like, they don't go into fully detail as to how everybody forgot that Spider-Man, you know, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. We know that, or forgot Spider-Man. But the thing is that none of that doesn't mean that the information isn't there. Like, in our world, you know, like, you know, he wouldn't be able to buy an apartment, you know, or go for the SAT or the, you know, or get because he did have a lot of that stuff with him at the end of the movie where he was trying to, you know, essentially he's got his GED and all that stuff. As a person that doesn't exist, if he totally didn't exist anywhere, he wouldn't have been able to do that. They would have saw that as suspect. So he's still, that information's there. Jameson does still have the information about, you know, about Peter Parker being Spider-Man. So it's a weird sort of thing.
Wait, how does he have it?
It's all on video.
No, but that all got erased by magic.
How do you know that?
Because it's magic.
Yeah, no, it never said. Magic. Again, how is it
magic? It's magic. That's my inherent problem with.
No, but I'm saying they only said people forget. They never said that every single bit of information would be to disappear.
Yeah, but
here's the thing: how are you able? If you're able, how are you able to go for your GED and not have a social security number or any sort of data? You can just be this mysterious person from nowhere.
There's a lot of people.
How is he able? If you live in New York, today, in order to even get an apartment, they need to do a fucking background check on you.
Yeah.
So how is it that he was able to do all this? I don't think any of the digital information is lost. I just think that everybody forgot it's there.
I don't know. This is what I think, because again, we've seen this in other stories, right? It does a clean wipe of everything. That's not satisfying, and that's why I don't like magic cures for this shit. Because that's you know, for Manny, I'm with you 100%. But you know for a fact that's what happened. Everything got erased.
They wiped everything.
Everything got erased, and even though it makes no fucking sense. Think about it like this, right? Zendaya. Think about it. She's gonna be like, okay, I know I ended up with Spider-Man in the Statue of Liberty, but why? Because that did happen. You know,
they obviously never forgot all the parts of Spider-Man. She's still. Here's the thing. Like, again, it erased those things, but it didn't erase certain things. So he's still wearing the necklace from the second movie.
No, it just erases the memory.
She still knows that Ned is there. So again, it erased all of Peter Parker, but again, it didn't erase all the things that he did.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that again, does that mean, you know, obviously you're not going to go over this, but yeah, all that, it didn't seem like it wiped all the information that existed about him. It's just that everybody forgot that he was Spider-Man or forgot him.
Exactly. But that doesn't mean, and again, it proves my point why I don't like magic like that, because you know it did wipe all that shit out, even though it makes no fucking sense that it would wipe it out. But it did, you know. Go ahead.
I'm with Tony. I think it's just a catch-all. You know, it's like, if there's any correlation between Spider-Man and Peter Parker, And I mean, essentially, you can't have, you know, Ned sort of know Peter, because most of his interactions with Peter are due to the fact that he's Spider-Man and he's helping him out.
So, but here's the thing, like, also the other thing that they don't go over, sort of, well, again, it doesn't go over, is that obviously the things that he did as Peter Parker, you know, as Spider-Man, still exist. Everybody remembers all this stuff. So does that mean that Ned and Zendaya knew that they worked with Spider-Man? They just don't know that
they know
it was
that.
Peter Parker.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
because remember, that's how it was in the comic books when Mephisto did the same thing, right? He did the same thing. People were like, "Okay, why am I working with Spider-Man? I don't remember how we met." You know, like that still happens. So they know they met with Spider-Man. They even said, like, there's a hole missing. There's something going on here. So I'm gonna guess it's the same thing. But again, that was stupid in the comic books too. You know. And that reason, Carlos, that's actually why I stopped reading Marvel for like 7 years. I'm like, that story was so dumb. I'm like, this is fucking you just insulted my intelligence right now, you know? And the movie did the same fucking thing, you know?
So yeah, like at the end of the film, you have Happy, and then they're like and Parker, and they're like, oh, how did you know her? Oh, through Spider-Man. He's like, oh yeah, I knew her through Spider-Man too. So it's like, so again, Happy knows that he was working with Spider-Man. He just doesn't know who Peter Parker is.
And that's a problem too, because
no, he doesn't know.
No, he should know Peter Parker was May's nephew. He should know that. So that part
it simply stated, who are you? So I'm going to assume that Aunt May, maybe because Peter never existed, it altered Aunt May's whatever she did in her timeline.
Peter existed.
She still ended
Peter was not erased from existence. It's the knowledge that he is Spider-Man that was erased. The knowledge was erased. Those other interactions should still be there. So Happy
then Tom
should
Holland,
know.
So him as Peter Parker was erased, and not Spider-Man, because I'm trying to understand. How does Happy know Aunt May? Because remember when Happy went and said, "Oh, you know her?" He was in Peter Parker-ish.
Yeah. Well, no. The thing about it is, again, nobody forgot any interactions that they've done with Spider-Man. They just forgot the part that that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't remember. I don't think the spell was just to get rid of the knowledge of Spider-Man. I think it's just the knowledge of Peter Parker in general.
That's what it was.
Yes.
And that's the fact that we're debating this right now proves the point of why magic like this is dumb. It's a dumb plot contrivance. You know?
Yeah, and they said it. They said it. Doctor Strange said it. Doctor Strange said it. He said everyone's gonna forget about you.
Yeah,
I think that was the whole point. It's like, you know, it's like it's messy because there's all this information that people know that you could correlate you to Spider-Man, that are digital, that are physical, anything. With the Avengers, but I guess their catch-all, and going to Tony's point and why he hates it, like the magic part of it is that we're just gonna do a catch-all spell that's gonna let everyone forget about you, but not technically Spider-Man. But but people who knew you before Spider-Man are gonna forget you.
And then
And
then what about all the people that, again, it's like it's a very sort of specific spell, right? So what did it do? Did it also get rid of everybody's taking the footage of Peter Parker?
No, you know what? You guys are right. They erased the fact that they knew. You're right. I take that back. They did erase the fact that they knew Peter because Zendaya didn't know who the fuck he was.
Yeah.
But again, dumb plot contrivance. It's not just with this movie. I hate when any story does that shit.
I think the one thing about a lot of it is that it's a very surface level explanation that doesn't make any sense when you start to think about it any deeper than what you would think. Again, did Doctor Strange mysteriously make that like, oh, get rid of all the information of Peter Parker? But then again, like, all the things that Peter Parker did within that world still exist. Zendaya still has the necklace on. They know Happy and Peter. He still says, I knew her through Spider-Man. So all those different interactions, him working with Zendaya and what's his face, all that stuff still exists. but that still doesn't explain any of the other information that's out there. Did this spell also magically get rid of everybody's fix everybody's iPads?
You know
what I mean?
Yeah, it did.
Yep, it did.
It erased all the photos. It erased all the iPads. It erased the Avengers headquarters where they had the repository where all remember when everyone bleeped out of existence because of Thanos, and they had like the pictures of the people of the Avengers.
Yeah, all the people that blipped out of existence. It's like, so the blip, it's weird.
It's stupid,
and they're never gonna go over this ever again.
No.
Especially when you think about all the silliness that happens with that TVA bullshit from the Loki film, that they supposedly go through all the different sides of it. Like this one is just, they're gonna leave that thread hanging. They're like, I don't think about that. Now he's alone. What are you gonna say, Dana?
Dude, but I was gonna say that I like the fact that everyone forgets whomever Peter Parker is, because it allows the characters who are already established and we know who are going to become villains to become villains. Ned ends up becoming Hobgoblin. Also, the dude who was Flash, isn't he ended up being a villain?
No, Flash Thompson.
Well, he becomes Venom.
Yeah, Flash
becomes Venom. So there you go. That's who's going to become Venom in the movie.
And he's going to become Agent Venom.
I want to say this. Dana, I don't have a problem with everything being reset. I have a problem with the way things were reset. That's my problem.
So, but then this would end up, my question would end up being for what ends up happening. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, but my question would end up being for what happens with Doctor Strange, because we do know what happens in the trailer, and we do know that it's kind of copyish of What If. So if that Doctor Strange, for example, dies, does that mean that his spell that he cast in this universe
no, it doesn't
also
work.
goes?
No.
It doesn't work that way? Okay.
In general, when spells are cast, they're usually permanent. You know, they're not tethered to the person that did it, unless there was somebody that undoes the spell.
There are spells that you need to be alive for, but this is just one of those. Like, here you go. Here's a spell. That's it. You know.
Oh, okay.
It's not like a vampire. It's like you kill the lead vampire. Nobody's a vampire anymore. It's not like that.
It's not like the drop ship in Avengers 1 where you literally blow the drop ship up and it kills off all the monsters.
Yeah, no, it's not like that.
It kills off all the Jatari.
Right. Okay.
The MacGuffin ship.
So unless anyone else have anything about this, then we could just move on to the mid-credit and Tom Holland and the symbiotes.
You mean Venom?
Tom Hardy.
Anyone?
Venom.
Tom Hardy.
Again, I already said it was fucking dumb. It was dumb. It was.
It might have been the dumbest part of the movie.
I'm disavowing any information that thing did for one reason. It was just a gimme to get people excited after watching that garbage second Venom film.
Venom movie.
Yeah, because literally at the end of the film, to get everybody excited about the new Spider-Man movie, they threw this tag on that he somehow magically just appears in the Marvel universe without having any sort of previous knowledge of who Peter Parker is.
I do agree. It was pretty stupid. Oh, go ahead.
No, that could actually be the key. If they all have a hive mind, then they could still connect. Venom can still connect to that Peter Parker. No? Yes?
He just said that guy. He didn't even go, Peter Parker.
He says, I gotta find that guy.
I gotta find that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no. Like, the hive mind, I don't think connects to multiverses. You know? That's too much.
That's what he said. He said in the end.
He said multiverse. He said that.
I thought he said multiverse because he's not from that universe. So why would he click TV to know that Tom Holland?
Yeah,
I don't know. It would make the most sense because at the end he's licking Tom Holland, and you're like, why does he know Tom Holland? They're not in the same universe. He knew exactly who that was. Remember, he kept saying we share a hive mind, and he said to Tom Hardy, "I can show you just a little piece."
This is the end of Venom because I didn't see.
This is the end of Venom.
I didn't see Venom, so I don't know.
This was the gimme at the end of Venom. I feel like that Gimme at the
Who's
end
the
of Venom
actors?
and the end of this should be really just disavowed because it doesn't make any sort of sense.
I stripped
within
that from the record.
structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the rest of the film.
So
I think they were just there to give people a little again to give you that nostalgia pop or whatever.
Yeah, I'm reading this off of Wikipedia right now. As Venom tells Brock about the symbiote's knowledge of other universes, okay, a blinding light transports them from their hotel room to another room where they watch J. Jonah Jameson reveal Spider-Man's identity as Peter Parker on television. Okay, so at the end of that movie, they get blipped into this one. Okay, and the stupid. By the way, I didn't realize that's what Venom sounds like. I'm like, how can you take that seriously? That's retarded. You know, like really, that's what he sounds like.
It's like,
like,
But yeah, they changed the voice from the first Venom to the second one to make him sound way deeper. But yeah, that is what
you mean, you know.
He sounds like Cookie Monster. Even
He does.
He sounds kind of goofy. He talks fast too.
You know,
even Cookie Monster would sound more scary than the Tom Holland Venom voice.
Tom Hardy, yeah.
Oh, good.
Tom Hardy.
So and no one is excited for any kind of way this opens up. You know,
no, but I think it's again. We're talking about if this happens, this is more of the dependent fucking Spider-Man again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you mean to tell me that the Venom in Spider-Man 4 is going to be a Venom from another franchise,
from another franchise, and now we're down the same road again.
Yeah.
To be honest, they should just disavow any of that information and just if they want to have fucking stupid Venom show up in this shit, just have it show up.
I mean, they why set up Tom Hardy and Venom only to not have him be in those Spider-Man?
Oh my god!
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. That scene completely undid what could have been. And Tom Hardy has been seen around with the Spider-Man hat on, so he also played into this as if, oh yeah, I will have a bigger role in the future movies. And yeah, that scene completely just getting rid of him, that annoyed me for sure as well. So
yeah.
Well, he's not gone. He's back, but he's a little gone.
Yeah, and then another Tom Hardy's going to come in. You know, the MCU version of Tom Hardy's going to pick it up like, oh, I remember all this.
Good.
It would be nice to see a Venomish thing in there, but not this way.
Not this way.
Not this.
Not like Matrix, right now, like this.
Not like this. Not like this.
Go ahead, Dina.
I just wanted to know, was there basically any other thoughts? Because the only thing that we had after that was the trailer that Tony vehemently hated.
Yeah, no, we don't need to talk about that. You know,
we don't need to talk about
that. It was just it was a trailer. They had
just a trailer. Like we're gonna talk. It's just a trailer, so it has no connection to the movie. We don't. Need to talk about it.
Right. It's not an end credits scene. It's an end credits trailer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. As for final thoughts, I mean, yeah. Again, the movie has some cool little moments, but they're all offset for me because of the fact that we have to depend on the other movies and the fact and the just simple way of how we got the story going, where it's like, oh, I messed up his spell. Oh shit. You know, and then we didn't talk about this so much. Again, at any time during this movie, they could have pressed that goddamn button, ended everything. No, we couldn't do that.
Or before that, make a call to MIT.
You could have done that. And then Chris, think about this. Okay, the whole thing was like, oh, I don't want everybody to, I don't want these people to forget who I am, and they ended up doing that anyway by the end of the movie.
Yeah,
everybody
not just forget he's Spider-Man. He don't exist anymore.
He doesn't exist anymore. So so it was even worse. So it's like this whole trip we went through was a waste of time because it ended up where it was going to be anyway. You know, so yeah. Again, some cool moments, but the way it was brought together was so clumsy to me, so apparent, and I couldn't enjoy this. Again, I'm glad people are enjoying this movie. That's fantastic. That's great. It is the best of the Holland movies, but it was just way too contrived for me. And I know people go, turn your brain off. No, fuck no, I don't turn my brain off, man. I it's always on. I need to think about things, right? This isn't a fucking Godzilla movie or something where you could turn your brain off, right? Like they were trying to do all these big emotional things that all fell flat because of the stupid setup that never worked for me. You know, it's like, yes, it was cool to see Afro Molina. Yes, it was cool seeing Willem Dafoe. Yes, it was cool seeing Tobey Maguire. Yes, I even like seeing fucking Andrew Garfield. That was all cool. But it was all offset by the fact that it had this dumb, stupid, gimmicky premise. And the fact that all this was just brought together as a cheap pop, cheap nostalgia pop. Remember this? Remember that? Like Chris said, it's like meme. You know, it's like, here you go. It's like all this shit. So,
oh yeah, I was almost
member berries. That's what it was. Member berries.
Yeah, it was member berries, but they put the meme jokes in. Like they had the 3 Spider-Man pointing at each other, and they had William Dafoe repeat the line from the first Spider-Man movies, like, "Oh,
I'm something of a scientist myself." Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they were putting me. I almost thought they were going to do the Jameson laugh, like they were going to have Tom Holland go to him for a job. Like, you serious? You know that they put that in. No.
Or well, Alfred Molina also did say his line too: "The power of the sun in my hands,
in the palm of my hands." Yeah, it was all it was too much. It just hit past the threshold. And that's why Lizard and Sandman are sidelined, because there's no real member berries for them. Nobody even cared that. I mean, Tony didn't even remember Lizard was a villain. Like that's how forgettable that first movie was. Electro, the second Garfield movie sucked, but I mean, Electro, at least they're like, oh, he has a lot of power, so he could do stuff, right?
Yeah.
Lizard is sidelined. All he did was they had a Scooby-Doo moment. He chases Zendaya and what's his name around the Statue of Liberty. That's it. Like he's the monster chasing the kids around.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. All right. Yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts. And Chris's thoughts too, I guess.
Richard, you want to jump in there? Emilio, Carlos?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead, Rich.
I'll add that I agree with a lot of the criticisms that have been stated. I thought the movie was I still think the movie is good, but I like I said, I see people say in interviews, this is the most ambitious Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. It is the best Spider-Man movie. It's better than Endgame. Never ever should they ever compare to what Marvel did with Endgame and all the stuff building up with Infinity War, because the amount of fan service they had in that's just, it's on another level. Where if you were watching all those films for the last 10 years and things revisited that you've seen in a previous film, it's just, I don't think Marvel will ever do anything that ambitious ever again.
Agreed.
But yeah, they can't make those comparisons. But again, I thought it was a good movie. But if you ask me what's the best Sony Spider-Man movie, it's still SpiderVerse, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Oh
yeah.
I was putting up the 2, man. Spider-Man.
Me
2,
too.
baby.
Spider-Man 2, the goat.
That's the
one.
Yeah,
to me
2,
also
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
The
2.
nuke.
The nuke.
No, yeah.
Spider-Man Deuce, man, all day. You know.
Yeah, I mean, again, like for me, I enjoyed the film on the surface level of it. But again, once you start thinking too deep about it, then that's when a lot of this falls apart. But again, it's still a fun enough movie that I can watch it over again and enjoy what is there. Again, I feel like the good parts of the film outweigh the sort of mad parts. Again, better than a lot of better than the 2 other the 2 home movies, the other 2 home movies. I didn't hate those movies, but they were okay. But I think that this one is definitely a lot better than those 2, and then definitely better than the second Amazing Spider-Man and the third Spider-Man film. So I mean, again, I'll watch it again, and and enjoy that part of it. But yeah, I don't think it's the greatest movie ever created, like a lot of people are saying, because they have their they get their nostalgia,
yeah.
They get their nostalgia.
Yeah,
they get with their nostalgia, hand gesture. But I think it's a fun movie, and again, it leaves Spider-Man is in a space where now that he can actually be his own Spider-Man and not have Nick Fury, hey guys, I'm here, or Dr. Stringer, what's up, and then or having Tony Stark, hey, look at me, I'm in it too. He can have his own cast now instead of inherited cast.
Yeah, for me, I felt like this is a really, really good movie. I really appreciate the fact that it does do a really good tribute to just, you know, all of the live action stuff that we've seen prior to this. In my opinion, I feel like this is, and even though I don't think this is by no means close to the top tier MCU movies, I do feel it's in the upper echelon of MCU movies. For me, I feel like there's a lot of clunkers. You know, I feel like if you put this against The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, First Avenger, Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Ant-Man, the first Doctor Strange movie, I prefer this over all of those. So just for that fact, Age of Ultron, just for that fact, I do feel I do want to give this movie a little bit more credit, just, you know, for being an above average MCU movie for me. I am interested to see how Sony is going to take the reins with the Spider-Man franchise, since they're clearly trying to pivot away from MCU, but they still know that Spider-Man that's how he's going to make the most money when he's involved with MCU characters. Having Doctor Strange in a Spider-Man movie, having Iron Man in a Spider-Man movie doesn't hurt Spider-Man in the box office. It only helps. So, and we still have to deal with whatever the incarnation of the Avengers is going to come up to, and then we still have the Fox stuff, and it's going to be a mess. And I don't envy Kevin Feige's position when trying to, you know, incorporate all of these factors into the MCU. But hopefully they do a good job. You know, Phase 4 is started with a rough start. I mean, Black Widow I feel like it's a decent movie, but it would have been better if it wasn't placed at the beginning of Phase 4. I think a lot of us agree with that. You know, Shang-Chi is just an okay movie. Like Tony mentioned, he forgot about it already, which is I think it is its biggest issue. Eternals I haven't seen yet, so I can't comment. And and then there's this movie, which, you know, stands above the rest of the Phase 4, and yeah, I'm glad I saw it, and hopefully it can carry on. Tom Holland acted his ass off.
He had some tragedy to deal with.
He had some tragedies. He had some tears in the rain.
So that was that. Everyone else? Anyone wants to chime in? All right, I'm going to take that sentence as a no. So what we do know is there is a Spider-Man 4. Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal gave an interview with the New York Times. They basically stated that for Spider-Man 4, there's going to be 3 more movies. Amy let that out of the box a little bit too early, but there's going to be 3 more Spider people. And on top of that, they're saying that the next movie, the 4th one, it will touch upon the sacrifice that he made in this movie. That basically he lost it all. And they said that it gives us a lot to work with for the next film. So we will kind of see that going on in Spider-Man 4. We don't know who's going to be in it aside from Tom Holland, but that should be it. We do know that right now it is standing to make $292 million at the box office, which means that people are going back to the theater. They're going to see this, so stay safe out there. Now we're going to just go and do some plugs. Everyone here?
Oh,
you guys all have projects and things that you
I have a comment though.
Yep.
One thing, everything Amy Pascal says should be taken with less than a grain of salt. that woman has the worst track record for predicting the longevity of franchises. If all you have to do is go back to 2016 Ghostbusters, Power Rangers, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. This woman should not be believed on any type of sequel plans.
Okay? Chris, she's Disney's Kimishima.
Yeah, well, he's a Kimishima. She's a Sony's Kimishima. Yeah. But Chris, I'm really glad you mentioned that. When I watched this movie, the first thing that came into my mind, and I haven't seen the newest one, but the 2016 version of the Ghostbusters movie and how that movie bastardized its legacy. That's why I appreciate the Spider-Man movie a lot, because it it wasn't even in the same world, and it gave it more respect than what they did back then. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Well, the new one is much better.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that.
So, no, it's good though. It's really good what they did, and you'll see the. No, it's not a spoiler for that, but it's a legacy. But going on with that, anyone have anything to plug, Mr. Emilio? You're famous and fancy.
My famous, well, no, I mean, I just work in the comic book industry and in all kinds of other industry. I don't really have anything to plug. I'm just on Throwdown
with
Mr. Tony Polanco.
And
with who?
Chris Seeley and Carlos Romero and sometimes Richard.
Yeah, right. You already know.
Yes.
Good. I wanted Manny to get the plugs in so we don't have to do the rest.
Yeah, so make sure, you know, if you want to find us all, find all of us. We're all, you know, our show is posted to thecoalition.com, as well as check out Throwdown Show on Twitter. And also go head over to our SoundCloud and look for Throwdown Show.
We don't have SoundCloud anymore. Yeah, just find any podcast app we're on there.
Throwdown Show.
Yeah. Throwdown Show. Okay. Anyone else have anything to say?
Thank you for having us on,
right,
as always. This was fun, you know. Always a good time with Dana.
Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure we're going to do Matrix, some of us, so that'll be interesting. I'm ready to rip that one apart.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
We will be back with Matrix. I have seen it. I rioted in the theater.
Is it a good riot or a bad riot?
Yeah, is that happy or you discussed it?
Or which she probably can't say right now.
On social media, I can say something, and I guess technically this is social media. I will say that this was a movie that I wish I saw at home. I think you should watch it at home on HBO Max first, so then that way you can judge whether or not you want to see it in the theater. Because there's a lot of things that they do where they explain way too much. It's a lot of exposition, a lot of explaining. And if you're someone who wishes that the movie would just be its own, it doesn't do that. It goes back to the original one. And it keeps reminding me, did you forget this? Remember that? Oh, that happened. So that is all that I can say.
All right, let's not make this a Matrix thing, because I know some of us have a lot of questions. So let's stop there. Thank you for telling us that, at least.
Yeah.
But we will be back with our own interpretation. Remember, this is just me and my one opinion. You guys may think that it's amazing and Tony would cry.
No, I don't like the Matrix movies. The only one I like is the first one. Yeah, you're saying.
Well, yeah, I don't blame you. We will be back for that one. It comes on the 22nd on HBO Max of December. Hopefully, we might be all back for Eternals. That is in January on Disney Plus. And also, just really wanted to plug for tomorrow, I will be doing the CW Naomi review for that. And also, I have to plug this because of Disney. This is basically Spider-Man and his amazing friends. I'm not sure if you can see because of the light, but I will be talking about that as well because Disney's like, Spider-Man, us too. Basically everything. So thank you all for joining us. Have a great day, afternoon, evening, and I hope that you enjoyed Spider-Man No Way Home. So thank you so much and bye.
Later, people.
Later, people.
Spider-Man.